And we welcome you to sunshine in Florida. Here's spring break time, and of course, St. Patrick's Day coming up. It's a festive time. I'm Paul Page with Mike Dunn. Mike won here, 1999 in Top Fuel. Larry Dixon just scored his first round win, coming off of an event win at Phoenix. He seems to be the guy.
Well, it's definitely all about momentum, and I think Larry Dixon has an excellent chance of getting another Powerade championship. And the key here is he's winning those close races. You saw that in that first run right out of the box with Doug Herbert. He had a great reaction time, and he needed it, and that was the difference to getting that win in that very close race, and that's what you have to do to win a Powerade championship.
All right, let's take you back to the starting line as the next pair is rolling up. Brandon Bernstein, his 100th race day start, and Clay Millican. Remember, he got kind of caught up in that whole Torco Fuel sponsorship thing. His first race of the season, and Johnny West and Lance Larson are right there helping him.
Another great race.
Whoa, this is going to be a good day. Brandon Bernstein takes that one, a 4:59.328 to the losing 4:62 with the 3 at 322 miles an hour for Clay Millican. Let's go to John Kernan. He's got a special guest.
And from American Idol, just finished singing the national anthem, Robbie Carrico. And Robbie, I understand you have a background in drag racing. What do you think about this? You just saw a couple pair go off.
There is nothing like this. Anybody who has ever watched it on TV, you have got to come to see it. There's no words for it. You can't explain it. The sound travels through your body. It's just amazing. The whole experience is amazing.
Thank you, man. Enjoy the day.
I will. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You know, one of the things, I mean, we're in HD and all the fancy sound and everything, but we can't reproduce the smell nor the vibration. And about to make that vibration, Corey Mack. He'll face Hillary Will. Corey has never been to a final round here at Gainesville. He's been racing here since 1991.
Hillary Will's been struggling a little bit in qualifying, but right now she's got a pretty good race car. All the Coletta cars, except for Doug Coletta, have been doing very well here this week. And Doug Coletta did not qualify when he had problems dropping cylinders pretty much every run, and with only 2 sessions, they just were not able to get that figured out.
You know, Corey Mack has never been to a final round here at Gainesville, but he's been racing here since 1991. He really loves this new team setup, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Mike Green's been doing a great job with him, and he's just really pumped right now.
Is a day for racing. Hillary Will at 330 miles an hour, a 4:58 takes down Corey McClenathan.
That's got to be a bit of an upset right there. Even though Hillary was running awfully well, Corey knew he couldn't cut her any slack, but he definitely fell off. Only was able to run a 4:61. Let's take another look at it. Both drivers left pretty good. Hillary been running that big top speed, and you saw her pull away at the other end, 330 miles per hour. Corey was only running 318 at the finish.
And Hillary Will has had the top speed at the first 2 races of the season, so she's one to watch. Well, coming up, it'll be that man, the Sarge, Tony Schumacher. He's going for 2 in a row here in Gainesville, but he's going to have to beat J.R. Todd to do it. Well, certainly the first 3 pair were ready to rock and roll when they came to the line. We've had 3 super races already. Here comes Hot Rod Fuller and Urs Urbacher, the European champion, as they approach the line for the Gatornationals. Urbacher, his 3rd race day start for the current European champ, and there, Mike Dunn, is the weather.
Air temperature 74 degrees, 55% humidity. That track temperature already at 98 degrees. That's something they're going to want to watch.
And Mike, what makes this even more dramatic as far as from day-to-day conditions, consider what has gone on this morning. When the crews got here and started to warm up their cars at 9:30, the water grains were as high as 95. It was 120 yesterday. But in the hour and a half since then, the water grades have fallen by 30. That means the cars have to burn less water. They make more horsepower. So these crew chiefs are literally ripping their hair out, trying to figure out how to make sure these cars don't smoke the tires. And through the first 3 pairs, I'd say they've done a magnificent job.
Track conditions are definitely there. We've been seeing some great side-by-side runs.
Hot Rod Fuller over on the right side. Herbacher smokes the tires. Hot Rod Fuller takes the round win. A 4:59 at 325 miles an hour. Now, Fuller has had the low ET for the first 2 events of the season, but he's not yet been to a final round.
And he's been doing that in eliminations, and usually runs about a 4:49 the first couple of races. He's about a 10th slower on this run, but I'm sure crew chief Rob Flynn wanted to make sure to get this car down the racetrack, A to B. Let's not make any mistakes, because we haven't had the most consistent race car that we'd like. We just want to make sure we go from A to B, and hopefully we can win this thing today.
Let's go to Gary Gerald. He has Hillary Will.
Hillary has had quite an adventure since we saw her in Phoenix. She spent 10 days in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm curious, aside from drag racing, has your perspective on life changed as a result of that trip?
It was definitely a life-changing experience, something I'm still processing, but it makes me so thankful that I can come back here. We had some scary times where it was like the scariest day of my life, one of the days out there, and it was like, I just want to get back to my family, my race team. I want to get back in my dragster, so it feels good to be back in the car, and I'm happy that we just won. We got to do 3 more today, but it's just, I kind of go at it with a new perspective. It's like a bad day here is not really that bad when you've been in a war zone for a week and a half, so I'm thankful for all of our troops do for us.
Well, it's great to have you back, and you've got lane choice against Rod Fuller next round.
That sounds great. We're going to win it for our troops.
Thanks.
Well, there's the #1 qualifier, Alan Bradshaw, Hillary Will. Wow, if you have to wear a vest and carry an M16, that is not the climate to be in. But Bradshaw had some problem right there at starting. He is ready to face Bruce Litton in his first race of 2008, but it looks like they've cured whatever the problem was. In trouble early. Bruce Litton will take the round win.
Bit of an upset there. Your #1 qualifier going away in the very first round. Can't help to think that maybe some of the problems they had is what led to that thing spinning the tires at the head of the throttle. You know, if there's a problem in the clutch system where it wants to engage all the levers early, then it has a tendency to just, well, it doesn't have a tendency, just all that horsepower, there's no way it's going to hook up. You can see as soon as he hit the throttle, that thing was up in smoke. It was like it had too much clutch engagement at the hit of the throttle as opposed to down the racetrack where it was supposed to come in, so probably did have an issue there.
Hey, John Kernan, an interesting matchup coming up in Funny Car.
Oh, no doubt about that, Paul. You might call it the teacher against the student or the teacher against the employee, as Fast Jack Beckman goes up against Frank Hawley. And Jack is actually taught here at your school. Frank also got his alcohol license here. Have you taught him too much? And I understand you just fired him.
No, Jack likes to make up stories occasionally. Jack's a wonderful guy, a good personal friend, and been with us for about 10 years. See, this is really a win-win thing for me. If I win, that's great. And, of course, if Jack wins, he's a graduate of our school, and we're very proud of Jack. So I'm in pretty good shape right now.
What do you think about the matchup going against Frank?
Well, then I want a win-win on that deal. Frank has been somebody I always looked up to. He was in the top 50 of NHRA's all-time drivers. He's a two-time world champ. I think it is so good for the sport and for Funny Car in particular to have somebody of his stature coming back. I'm actually excited. You know, I'm not just a driver. I'm a big fan of the sport. And to get to go up against Frank Hawley is awesome. But I tell you, burnout to turnout, there isn't anybody in the other lane. I got to do my job, try to put this Dodge in the winner's circle.
Should be a good race. We're all fans and can't wait to see it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we had a little fun at Frank's expense when he brushed the wall here during qualifying, but he took it in the good spirit in which it was offered. So here is Antron Brown. He came to his first ever NHRA race here in 1998. Of course, he was on a Pro Stock motorcycle then and went on to 16 career wins on Pro Stock motorcycle. Over on the other side, it will be Doug Foley. It's the first race of the season for Foley. He's been one of the drivers that's affected by Evan Knoll's sponsor withdrawal. His 21st race day start.
Foley was a little bit of a giant killer last year, taking out some of the big names, and right now he's going to try and take out Antron Brown. Antron, crew chief Lee Beers had a great race car for his driver. In qualifying eliminations, they've been a little inconsistent. You know, if he can give Antron a good race car here, it's going to be a good race.
Well, there for Antron Brown is a win, and something that later he'll be able to tell his new child, third child for the family, Adler Carson Brown, weighed 7 pounds 4 ounces.
Another look at Antron had about 200ths of a second advantage off the starting line, but Doug Foley was running right next to him all the way just past half track where he had some problems set in. That allowed Antron Brown to get into the next round.
Well, there's still a great deal more. When we come back, we'll be talking with this man. Lives in nearby Ocala's, got his museum there, and Big Daddy Don Garlits. Big matchup, too. J.R. Todd. Can he do it again against Tony Schumacher? They're paired up, and they'll be with us when we come back. And back at the Gatornationals, a view from the great skyboxes over the side of the track there. On the track, Top Fuel, Dave Grubnick and Mike Gunderson. But first, let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Alan Bradshaw, for the first time in his career, was a #1 qualifier, but this sport can be oh so fickle. Do you ever get used to the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows of drag racing?
Man, if you get used to this stuff, you're in trouble. It's emotional, it's driven. You know, yesterday I understood how Tony Schumacher feels. Put it on the pole, be #1. Today I understand how he feels. I feel his pain when he goes out there #1 and bails out in round 1. So, you know, it's a tough deal. We'll go back, we'll regroup. Team Vis Viva did an excellent job. Cars stayed together. Of course, we didn't get to go very far, but it'll be okay. We'll regroup, head to Texas, and we'll have something for them in Texas.
See you in Houston. Thanks.
And speaking of Texas, in just 2 weeks, NHRA travels to Texas for the O'Reilly Spring Nationals. And there are the times qualifying. And race day, the finals itself. Make sure you join us, if not at the track, on the air here. So Dave Grubnick, the likable Aussie, his 200th race day start. His last win on the tour came at this track in 2006. And Mike Gunderson, a former top alcohol dragster standout.
I think David Grubnick could have a good shot at getting another win here. The car has looked very good the last couple of races. Oops.
No, he doesn't. Whoa! Wow, did you see him get that sideways? Mike Gunderson takes the win, 472. Grubnick, he had that thing all over the place.
Got that thing sideways trying to get to recover. Man, that was a big surprise. I didn't expect to see him smoke the tires at the head of the throttle like we saw with Alan Bradshaw. Anything can happen in drag racing, but I thought he had a little bit more consistent race car. Possibly could have had a mechanical problem also. Just you know, on those clutches, if you have one little mechanical issue on that clutch, you're not going to hook up 8,000 horsepower. Look at this. Watch him try to get that thing hooked back up. And he's been out of the throttle for a long time, but look at that thing just keep rotating around even for as long as he was out of the throttle. Wow.
That's like 90 degrees, and he still saved it. That's some driving. So Mike Gunderson has taken his first round win, and let's send you off to Dave Reed.
From up high in the ACDelco suite here at the ACDelco Gatornationals. Who better to spend some time with in the Grand Marshal this very event? The man who was #1 back when the NHRA voted their top 50 drivers. It's Big Daddy Don Garlits, the guy who's been coming to this racetrack since it opened. Well, Big, as you look around and see what we got here, what are your impressions?
Well, they've made a lot of changes on this place since I started racing here. It's been a long time, you know, but boy, I tell you, it's become one of the best drag strips in the whole world. And it always was really good to me because it's got a lot of shut-off, you know. Have any problems with all down at the end, you've got plenty of place to go. And let me tell you, that's always on the driver's mind when you're running over 300 miles an hour.
You were fortunate enough to hoist 3 Wallies. You were the #1 qualifier at the first 3 Gatornationals all the way back then. And because of all of this, a lot of that is because of what you've done. Do you ever get tired of people coming up and thanking you for providing us the playground we have today?
No, it's a fun deal. And of course, you know, you got to mention one thing. I made my fastest run ever right here. The 323.04 was on this racetrack. And so that puts a really special spot in my heart.
First man to crack the 270-mile-an-hour mark. Also inducted a bunch of people into his Hall of Fame. He did that right here, too. If you ever get a chance, be sure to stick on down to Ocala and check out the Drag Racing Museum. Thanks for spending some time today, Big.
Well, thanks for having me as the Grand Marshal.
Oh, it's always our pleasure, trust me.
It's cool. You come down 75 on your way to southwest Florida, and the museum's right there just off of the exit. And a lot more than just racing. Big, for example, was an Eagle Scout. His uniform is still sitting there on display.
He's been successful. He's been the best at everything he's done in his whole life, and that's why he's the #1 drag racer of all time.
Well, Lewis Bloom is our stat guy, keeping those obscure but interesting facts. Here he is.
Well, Alan Johnson won his first ever race here with brother Blaine back in 1988, 20 years ago. Since then, he's gone on to win 90 races in Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Top Alcohol Dragster. And the big stat, 11 championships. Alan Johnson is the man.
And speaking of Alan Johnson, he makes the final adjustment on Tony Schumacher's car, the defending champ from last year here. He also won here in 2004. The other side is J.R. Todd. Only JR's second trip to this great track. Left lane has become problematic. Schumacher takes the win, 461-314.
Second time in a row we've seen a car smoke the tires at the head of the throttle in that left-hand lane. Tony Schumacher didn't have any problems early, but did not. I'm pretty sure he didn't make the kind of run that Alan Johnson was expecting. Taking a look at it, JR might have went a little bit farther than David Grubnick, but not much. Situation where the crews are going to have to look at that lane and make possible adjustments off that starting line.
Here's the Lucas Oil Top Fuel ladder as we go to second round, and look at that, Antron and Tony Schumacher.
Well, that's going to be a great matchup on the other side of the ladder. Got some good ones, too, including Hot Rod Fuller going up against Hillary Will.
And a bit later, a very special Powerade power time on this man, Doug Herbert. It has been a tough year, and he will tell his own story. Back in Gainesville, Florida, we told you we had a very special feature for you. In this week's Powerade Power Time, we focus on Doug Herbert. He's one of the sport's nice guys, and this season, he's racing under some nearly unimaginable circumstances. Life was looking bright for Doug Herbert coming into 2008. The journeyman Top Fuel driver was still riding high after his memorable run at last year's countdown to the championship. He brought in a young new crew chief to capitalize on that momentum, and Herbert's engagement to his new love, Ginger, brought joy to his personal life, too. But everything changed one Saturday morning. On January 26th, the phone call brought the worst possible news. Herbert's two sons, 17-year-old John and 12-year-old James, had been in a car accident near their Charlotte area home.
I was in Phoenix, and their mom called me and told me that John and James were in an accident, and that she thought they might be dead. I said, you gotta call me back. And she did. She called me about 15 minutes later, and she told me, she said, John and James were both in the car and they both died. And I guess I got probably the most empty feeling that I ever had in my life. He was driving recklessly. He was swerving through traffic, and he was going too fast, and he lost control of the car, slid across the road, and another car hit him right pretty much directly from the front side. Both John and James, they were killed instantly right there. They were killed instantly right there.
The accident took just seconds, but those seconds altered Herbert's life forever.
I look at pictures and I smile, and then I look at pictures and then I cry, because I've realized that everything's changed. Everything's really changed. I haven't stopped thinking about him, you know. I mean, I'm driving down the road and something will, you know, something will come over me and I'll have to pull over, and it's hard, and it'll probably be like that. I don't know if that'll ever change. Probably my whole life.
Fond memories of John and James give Herbert strength, but with those memories come the notion of what might have been, of dreams that will never be realized.
What I'm going to miss most about John is just watching John turn into a young man, and you know, just over probably the last 6 months, we were talking about what John wanted to become and what his plans were, and I was kind of liking that. You know, I was getting kind of help him and mold him and you know, kind of seeing the way that he was going, and I think that's what I'm going to miss the most, is just watching him, just watching him grow and change. Probably when it's my birthday on October 5th, and same day as James' birthday, that I'm just going to miss having him be there. You know, just going to miss seeing him, and just really going to miss him. Probably the best thing, and I'm so lucky to have it happen, is the last thing that John told me and the last thing that James told me. That I tell them, "Hey, I love you," and sometimes they go, "Yeah, okay, thanks, Dad, see ya." John and James both said, "Love you too, Dad." So when they told me, "I love you too, Dad," so at least that's the last thing that they told me, and I remember that. And, that's good. So I know we're on good terms, you know.
Doug Herbert has dealt with the pain by surrounding himself with his friends at the racetrack and by escaping to his private sanctuary behind the wheel. He's helping himself heal away from the racetrack, too. Within just days of the accident, Herbert reached out to John and James' friends and classmates. And with their help, Doug is creating a safe driving programs he hopes to bring to schools nationwide.
We've started this program called BRAKES. And BRAKES stands for, and the kids all came up with this, be responsible and keep everyone safe. And that's pretty much, that's what we want to do. So they came up with that. We came up with a logo, putonthebrakes.com. And we're just going to do a lot of things to try and help the awareness of these kids to realize what the consequence of driving fast is. You know, one of the leaders down at the school, and I was telling him, "Hey, I'm feeling kind of selfish here. It's, you know, because I feel like I'm getting a lot out of this." And he said, "You know what, you don't even think about it. You're doing as much for every one of those kids as you are to make yourself feel better." And so it's making me feel better, and I think it's making them feel better, and hopefully it's making other people feel better. I just wanted to try and do something, get the kids involved at their school, and have them help me do something that we can make a difference with some kids.
And can you imagine the personal fortitude that it takes to continue on after a tragedy like that? He lost in first round to Larry Dixon and is a spectator now for the rest of the day. Our prayers with him. And back at the Gatornationals in Gainesville, Florida, on a gorgeous Florida sunshine day. Funny car comes to the line. Tim Wilkerson and Mike Neff as the track temperature climbs. And from the shadows of segregation came basketball's unknown legends who changed the game forever. Black Magic, presented by Russell and State Farm on ESPN tonight at 9. Let's take a look at the Lucas Oil Funny Car ladder. Look down there. Pedregon and Ron Capps will go at each other. Ron trying to make it 3 in a row.
Well, that's going to be a good matchup. But also, we talked about it, Jack Beckman going up against his boss, Frank Hawley, with Jack having the lane choice.
So here we go with Funny Car, and that man, Mike Neff, is looking for his first round win as a professional funny car driver. This is his 5th race day start. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it, 1, from that left lane, and 2, take down Tim Wilkerson, who was the #1 qualifier at Pomona and Phoenix. But both times he lost in round 1. Oh, Mike Neff is all over the place. And Wilkerson takes the win. Just a 5:07 at 2:90. But Mike Neff was all over the track. John Medlin, consider what he is up against here. This is where his son, 1 year ago, lost his life in a testing accident after this race. Eric Medlin is definitely missed, but John Medlin is going to make these cars even safer as part of that legacy.
Saw John giving some instruction to Jimmy Prock on what his car did. Mike Neff had this race won. He had 400s out of the gate. Tim Wilkerson had a cylinder out. Mike should have been able to get the win, but when your mount smokes the tires about 200 or 300 feet off the line, that's pretty much going to end your day, even if the other car is only running on 7 cylinders. Let's take a look, another look at Mike here. You see the car fishtail a little bit, and then right there goes up in smoke. He catches it quick now. He got out of it very quickly, but then when he got back on it, the car started moving towards that center line, and look how his momentum just carries him right across that center line for a disqualification.
Next pair in funny car in his second start as a pro, Bob Tasca and Jim Head coming off a semifinal finish at Phoenix. Let's go to John Kernan.
Down in the pit area with Larry Dixon getting ready for his second round matchup against Bruce Litton. And Larry, you are a student of the sport as you're filling up your fuel, filling the tanks. You're a student of the sport. You've won here at the Gatornationals. What does that mean? Can you put into perspective how big an event this is?
Oh, this is, in golf terms, this is one of the majors. You got Gainesville, Indy, Englishtown, Columbus, and Pomona. And those are the tracks that, that's where the history of the sport started on that side of things. Multitasking here. But when I was a kid growing up, my dad didn't tour, but man, I'd read about Garlett and Shirley and Snake and the Mongoose and all that, and it's just, man, it's one of those, you just wanted, I get goosebumps talking about it. That's the history, and that's how I grew up, man. Ever since I was a little kid, I want to be a top fuel driver, and I get to do that, and now racing in places with this much history.
And you can hear the excitement about being here. He's got wins here in the past, and also 2 weeks ago at Phoenix when he won, it was qualifying 8th. He was the first pair out. Same thing today.
Well, Jim Head had lane choice. It's the first time since the first round in Chicago last year, and it looks like that was pretty important to have.
He definitely took advantage of it. Both drivers left at the same time, but left side of your screen, you're going to see the tire shake for Bob Tasca. Now, he does a good job of catching that thing, backpedaling off the throttle and getting back in it, but he lost way too much momentum at that point. Jim Head in the other lane running a 490. He can do this all day. He said he can run a 485 to a 490 all day, and he said that's what he's going to try to do more often in eliminations to see if he can get more round wins and maybe even a win.
Yeah, but Jim is still looking for somebody to replace him in the seat so he can be a tuner. And back at the line, he's won here 7 times in funny car, John Force. He'll go up against Gary Densham. Force is looking for win number 995, round win. No one has won 1,000 rounds of racing in NHRA Pro history.
That's a pretty amazing fact there. Just look at that record there. 10 straight championships from 93, 2002, 14 total. John Force, as you all know, he is the man. Right now, he's got to get around his old friend and teammate, former teammate, Gary Densham. That man, Austin Coyle there, he's seen more runs down the racetrack than pretty much anybody on the grounds here. Been doing this for a long time, but he'll even tell you he's still working on getting the consistency out of that new race car. He can step up and run the number, but they're still fighting that consistency problem a little bit with it.
John Force is gone. Gary Densham, 491, 304 miles an hour. Marty, the party is cheering it on.
He's loving that. Second race in a row. John Force goes out in the first round. Once again, it was this problem the problem they've been having is out in the middle of the racetrack. Car looked pretty good to about 200-300 feet, and then he went into tire smoke when they're trying to apply the horsepower in the clutch. Take another look at it. Gets through the shake point right there. Looks pretty good. Now you're trying to apply the clutch and the power to accelerate it through the middle, and it just would not hold, and that ended John Force's day.
Look at Marty. He loves his drag racing. And when he sees a round win, he's into full party mode. And when we come back, we're going to have a chance to take a look at this man and his move forward. Bob Tasca at the ACDelco Gatornationals. Back in Gainesville, a couple drivers looking to make history here. 350th possibility for Tony Pedregon. And Caps, he's looking for 3 in a row. On the line, though, right now, Tony Pedregon and Gary Tolliver. For Tony, it's his first start from the #1 qualifying spot since Sonoma in 2005. Let's go to Gary Gerald at the far end.
with Bob Tasca, and we haven't had an opportunity to really talk to this young man as he's making the transition from the alcohol funny car to the real deal here. A little more nitro, a little more power. I know it's disappointing when you don't get that round win here, but what's this transition been like for you, Bob?
It's been real exciting. I tell you, we're so proud to be with Motorcraft and Quick Lane. This Shelby Mustang has been running good. We've been struggling a little bit getting the tune-up dialed in. You know, Gainesville is always a big race. You want to do well. These conditions, you know, the sun's out. We haven't faced anything like this all weekend, but we're learning. We're in it for the long term, and we're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a while here.
All right, appreciate it. Wish you well, man.
Thank you very much.
And both of these guys, Tony Pedregon, Jerry Tolliver, looking for their first round win of the season as Dickie Venables walks away from Tony's car. And we're staging. Boy, right down the center for Tony Pedregon. 486, 317 to a losing 493 for Jerry Tolliver. Perhaps we ought to remember #1 qualifier in funny car this season, though, has yet to go forward to a win. That's the first round of racing #1 is taken.
And #1 qualifier in top fuel was already gone, so Tony Pedregon was the first one to be able to step up and win from that position in a while, and he does a great job at 486 in that right-hand lane, gets him into the next round.
And it's time now for our CSK Tractionary.
Today we're going to talk about an A-arm. An A-arm is a triangular component used to mount the front wheel to the chassis on these funny cars. Now let's take another look at Tony Bartone in funny car qualifying. This is why we're talking about the A-arm. Look at the front end, comes up in the air when they apply the clutch, and then they have some problems. He loses his steering. It's because of that A-arm. So for more information on that, let's go down to Dave Reed.
Thanks, Mike. Let's get you up close and personal with an A-arm, courtesy of Gary Selzy's car that's sitting back here in the pits. As the name implies, it's an A-arm. It looks exactly like a big giant A. 3 bars, 2 of them that come down, attached to the bottom of the chassis. This one that's adjustable affects the tone of the car, attaches to the top end of the chassis. Giant kingpin attaches to a spindle, and that's what holds the wheels on these cars. There is no axle. Sitting here right now, these A-arms support about 450 pounds of weight of the car on each side. But now, imagine that you're Tony Bartone, you've got a funny car body on top of this, and you're firing down the racetrack, and suddenly that car stands up. All that downforce that is on top of that race car slammed it down to the earth, and ultimately what happens is one of the mounts that's on the bottom right here failed and allowed that wheel to fold over. A-arms very, very important when trying to get a car down the racetrack.
Well, Ron Capps was looking, whoa, Cruz Pedregon. Capps was looking for 3 in a row, and then suddenly a big, big happening for Cruz.
Well, I can tell you what happened there. It looked like the throttle hung open on Cruz as he was trying to get that thing to shut down. And when that happens, the engine just keeps revving. Eventually, you cannot keep shoving all that nitro and air into that engine for that length of time. It's going to blow up. I'm sure if we take another look at it, that's probably what happened. That thing was under power a long ways past the finish line. Cruz a little shaken up there. That was a big explosion, big concussion, not unsimilar to what his brother went through in the first race at Pomona.
The body, it flipped all the way to the outside of the wall. Fortunately, there's a nice buffer zone there between the track and where everybody else can watch from. And that was huge.
Let's take another look at it. Left side of your screen. Now, I really believe that the throttle did stick on this car because you're going to see him go down there. He makes a nice run to get the win. Runs a 486. Cylinders out. Is pushing it over towards the center line. See, the thing's still under throttle. He's way past the finish line. Cruz usually doesn't do that. He's still under power. Guarantee you that throttle stuck at that point. He might have even went for the fuel shutoff, or just about the time he was thinking about going to the fuel shutoff. Oh, look at the rear tires come off the ground when that thing blows up. Jeez, what a concussion. And it just keeps bouncing. But what happens is when the throttle sticks, your first instinct as a driver, he's trying to pull back on that throttle pedal. It's not coming back. So then what you have to do is you have to hit that fuel shutoff. And what you have to do is you have to slap it shut to try to get the fuel, kill the fuel going to the motor so it doesn't make too big of an explosion. If you don't get it there in time, obviously that motor was hurting itself before it got the finish line anyway, and then it gets underneath the valve and it just parts get under there and it fires inside that manifold. Huge explosion. But I can almost bet that the throttle stuck on that run. That's what caused all that damage.
Well, he was looking for his 350th round win. He got it, and that's going down on a page all by itself in the scrapbook. And as you suggested, Mike, he was shaking up a bit. Looked like he's talking now, though.
Story doing an interview. Couldn't have been too bad. But, no, it's a wild ride. I've been through a few of those. I mean, it's a scary feeling when you have the throttle stick at one of those things at 300 miles per hour. But Cruz is doing a good job there getting it stopped.
Yeah, and remember his brother. You mentioned it, Mike, back in Pomona, Tony Pedregon. Watch over here, left side.
Different circumstance, but pretty much kind of the same end result. But they actually broke a drive gear, which allowed the engine to go out of time, which caused that massive engine explosion there. And the difference here is, see, part of the body stayed on Tony's cars and diverted that flame right onto Tony Pedregon. That's what caused some of his burns to his hands. If that front piece right there hadn't stayed on that car, I don't think it would have pushed the flames as heavily onto Tony Pedregon, and he might not have gotten the burns that he did.
Well, the Pedregon brothers are the hottest drivers, no pun intended, on the circuit this year. And we will talk with Cruz when we come back and get his take on that really loud noise he heard.
What did you guys run? Did anybody say?
No, I don't know.
Back in Gainesville for the Gatornationals, the 39th edition. And coming up is Jack Beckman and Frank Hawley. That's right. Hawley owns the driving school here, and Beckman teaches at it. Don't forget, too, the O'Reilly Spring Nationals coming up. Coverage on Saturday, March 29th, 2 qualifying shows. And then on Sunday, NHRA race day and the final. Well, Frank Hawley, a long and a very storied career.
The one thing I like, you see the 2 championships, but Frank Hawley only ran the entire season for the championship 4 times, 3 times in funny car and once in top fuel, and he won 2 of them. So that number is pretty impressive when you put it into that context.
You think about all his numbers, by the way, it's only his 79th race day start, Dave.
And Paul, how did he prepare himself for getting back into a funny car? A very curious mix of taking a look at the computer graph of Tony Pedregon's car while listening to audio of it go down the racetrack. It kind of gave him an idea of the sounds the car would make and sounds that the car might make when things were going bad. And he said it was very, very useful.
Boss, take that one. Jack Beckman, 486 to a losing 489. For Frank Hawley, Jack Beckman will face Tim Wilkerson in second round.
Beckman's going to get his pay docked after that one. 200th of a second advantage off the starting line and never looked back after that. Good side-by-side race, though, put on both of these drivers. 486 at 320 miles per hour beats a 489 at 321 miles per hour.
And so that sets up Robert Height and Del Worsham as we take a look at the wins by lane. I said earlier the left lane can be an issue. Obviously it was. Let's go to Gary Gerald. He has Cruz Pedregon.
Well, I don't know if a cool, refreshing Powerade ever tasted any better. That was one major concussion. Tell us what it was like, Cruiser.
It wasn't fun. I tell you what, thought I was driving my midget there, or a sprint car, late model or something, but it scared me because I was going really fast. I felt the back of the car raise up. My head was bouncing between the pads in there, and I didn't want to run into caps. You know, I know we'd won. I was excited for a second. That was the biggest concussion I've ever felt driving. I thought of my brother Tony, and I was just trying to hang on for dear life. I did not want to hit the wall because I just didn't want to hit the wall. I was going so fast. But luckily the parachutes hit. And boy, that was a weird run. I'd like to see that on tape myself. But for Advanced Auto Parts, a huge win. Hey, Ron Capps and that team, they're tough. Advanced Auto Parts is #1. Not the guys in the other lane. But I'm excited. I'm a little dizzy. Hope the chassis we can fix it. But my head was just ping pong, like a ping pong when you play a pinball machine, not ping pong. And you know when it starts rattling it towards the end there. So my head was doing. But hopefully we can get it next round. But hey, man, we keep winning. We're 3rd in points. Hopefully we can keep moving up.
Thanks, Cruz.
Yeah, and you can actually see that. You see how his head was bouncing back and forth?
Oh, yeah, that was a big-time bounce. Now, he didn't mention anything about the throttle sticking, so they're going to have to go back and look at that information because either that throttle hung up or he drove it way too far past the finish line.
Well, here is Del Worsham, his first race start of the season. And guess who he's got to go against? Robert Height, who holds both ends of the track record here with a 468, 331.
And add that to the fact that he's been in the final rounds of the first two races, including winning the Winter Nationals. He knows he's got a bad hot rod in that other lane. But like his boss, John Force, they're still fighting consistency problems a little bit. And Robert even brought up the fact that because of all the new chassis development and everything, they've only made about, and the rain, they've only made about half the runs that they normally would have made this time this year.
Wow. Well, they were both fighting it for a while there. Chuck Worsham says, did you see that? Two John Force racing cars are out in first round now.
Wow. Chuck Worsham says, oh, he'll take it. That was kind of a mess from start to finish. Take another look at it. Robert Height gets a good advantage off the starting line, but then puts a cylinder out. Saw Del smoke the tires, backpedal it to get to recover. And then it looked like Robert Height had more problems down track, and that allowed Del to get around him. Take another look at it. Watch right side of your screen. You're going to see Del right there. Backpedals the car, as did Robert Height. But Robert had cylinders out, and then it backfired and just pretty much quit on Robert, and that allowed Del Worsham to drive around for the win.
Actually, that's the third Force car out. Mike Neff, John Force, and now Robert Height.
Right there, the cylinder's out, then it moves around, starts skating, he gets out of the throttle, gets back on it, going to put the cylinders out again, backfires a supercharger, and that ended his day.
And as Chuck Worsham celebrates, here is the lone hope for John Force Racing. Ashley Force, her 20th race day start. She won her first ever round racing as a pro here last year. Dave Reeve.
Well, it's pretty crazy down here, as you can imagine, Paul. Within 3 minutes of that run being made, the team was already back here preparing beyond what a normal servicing would be. They had the backup body down. They had a backup power plant pulled out, heads pulled out, everything ready to go so they could really focus on if this car has any additional problems. Cruiser did make it back to the pits. Ron Tobler has downloaded the data out of that race car, and indeed, he didn't say it, but the throttle did hang open. They don't know why yet, so they're still trying to figure out if perhaps the throttle or the cable got hung up on the body or if something else went wrong, but still analyzing down here, but it's pretty crazy.
And that's Dave Reef with a little Valvoline garage tip for you. And Ashley's following Caps in the style of putting a playing card up there.
Yeah, Ashley's been doing a pretty good job this year. One thing you got to watch on this racetrack, we've seen when they've cars have been spinning the tires. Boy, it is very slippery out there when you're trying to get the cars to recover. It's almost like they're on ice. Both these drivers are hoping, though, they're hooked right up.
That's Scott Collette on the left side, lights the tires right away. And Ashley Force keeps John Force Racing in the game.
Nice job by Ashley. Good reaction time there. You saw the car really stuck all the way down that racetrack until at the finish line and made a move, and she got off. Watch the left-hand side. Stuck right in the middle, then kind of starts to fishtail a little bit, and she decides to click it just a little bit before the finish line. Right there, that thing's hooked good. Then it just starts to drive. Now, she said this new car, it is more sensitive. In other words, when she makes a move on the wheel, the car really wants to move, and she's still getting used to that.
And as we look at the Lucas Oil Funny Car ladder, Ashley will have to face the #1 qualifier, Tony Pedregon, when they go to the next round. And Cruz, they get it all working against Jim Head.
The other side of the ladder, you got Gary Densham and Del Worsham are going to go head-to-head. Tim Wilkerson and Jack Beckman going at it, with Jack Beckman having the lane choice.
Well, a great deal more to come, and as we go away, let's just remember the moment when Cruiser had that thing just blow loud. When we come back, we'll be looking for Pro Stock. Some great stories there.
Go!
start with Jason Line and Ricky Jones making his Pro Stock debut. Here's the Lucas Oil Pro Stock ladder, Mike Dunn.
Warren Johnson going up against Matt Hartford in that first round matchup. Number 1 versus number 16, the other side of the ladder. Some good matchups also, including Greg Stanfield going up against red-hot rookie Justin Humphries.
Yeah, you remember that nice feature you saw on him? Bob Glidden says he's one of the best. Will be a great champion. We'll see him later. Red light and all over the place.
That was wild for the first pair out.
He's new.
Man, but Jason wasn't. They were both all over the place.
So a little surprise. Jason Line is the winner, of course, when the red light came on, but Jason was fighting the car too.
Well, and Ricky Jones missed by 1/1000th of a second from having a perfect light, but boy, as soon as both drivers let the clutch out, they were all over the place. Track is very slick out there, at least for the first pair of pro stockers anyway.
Do you
but
think
Jason Line dodges a bullet on that run?
You think Jason was reacting?
Nah, that was just a track. I mean, he was just because Rick. I mean, only had a 1/1000th red light. Jason was 050 in his reaction time. That just was missing on the setup for the track conditions.
Greg Stanfield and Justin Humphries, and from the shadows of segregation came basketball's unknown legends. They changed the game forever. Black Magic, presented by Russell and State Farm on ESPN tonight at 9. Saw some interviews with the producer-director on that this week. It should be an awesome show.
And right now, Justin Humphries on the line in his sophomore season. And as we said, that if Bob Glidden says you're doing a great job, trust me, Bob Glidden doesn't pull any punches. But right now, he's got a great racer in the other lane in Greg Stanfield. Greg Stanfield's getting some help this year, a little extra budget. They're actually being able to spend some more time building some horsepower, and they're looking to have one of those breakout years, hopefully get his first win in Pro Stock Eliminator.
Yeah, I was standing there when Bob Glidden came over to do a little coaching on Justin, and he was a little critical, and then he finally says, there's Bob, he says, now Paul, I got to be straightforward and honest with him, and that's what I'm doing. He isn't going to learn if I just sweet him on.
He's absolutely right. It doesn't matter how good of a driver you are. If you make a mistake, you better know you made it so you can fix the problem the next time. Right by both drivers. Good race.
Another super race, and look at that, right at the stripe with a 669 with a 2. Justin Humphries takes the win by 2/1000.
Boy, he had an 0:10 reaction time. Greg Stanfield was only 6/1000 of a second behind. Good thing Justin had that reaction time, because if you take a look at the Lucas Oil photo finish, there's the margin of victory, just about a fender length at the lights.
You look at the Lucas Oil photo finish cam, and now we show you the elapsed time coming down the track.
And you see him going back and forth, and with Justin Humphries getting the win with a margin of victory of 89/10,000ths of a second.
And so coming up now is Greg Anderson and Jim Yates. But first, let's go to John Kernan. He has Warren Johnson.
Number 1 qualifier in Pro Stock, Warren Johnson, the professor, getting ready to go out there and get to business in a brand new car that, Warren, you guys didn't even finish working on until, what, Tuesday night at 11 o'clock? How'd you get it so ready for the racetrack?
Well, we didn't do anything power plant-wise or driveline-wise. That was already accomplished with the GTO in the first 2 races. All we had to do was just get the chassis prepped on it. We went down to Valdosta, fired up Wednesday morning first time, made 3 runs on Wednesday, came down here to do a ACDelco customer race, drove back to Valdosta on Thursday, made, I believe, 5 more runs on it on Thursday, and came down here, and the rest is just what happened.
All right, well, best of luck to you. And you hear his schedule. I mean, who works harder than Warren Johnson, than the professor?
Well, here is Jim Yates and Greg Anderson. Anderson won last year over Larry Morgan. He'll face Jim Yates. He has 25 career Pro Stock races. And this is his first start in this season with the brand new GXP G6 Pontiac. Johnson all the way, 663 with a 5. The low ET of the race, 208 miles an hour.
Man, Greg Anderson, when he lets a clutch out and he's 006 reaction time, 6,000 from perfect, normally your day's over with, and that's what happened here. On top of that great reaction time, then he runs low ET of the meet to add insult to injury. He never looked back, and Greg Anderson is in the next round.
And next it will be Alan Johnson, who was on the pole at Phoenix, and Dave Northrup. First, let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, actually, you find yourself as the only standing member of the Force team right now. It carry a little extra pressure going to round 2?
It did. When we were sitting up there ready to start the car, I was talking to Eric, and I was telling him, Eric, our team wants to win this race for you so bad, and somehow I'm the remaining car left to do it. But I prayed to him to keep us safe and to let me be a good driver. And in the words of Eric Medlin, he said, drive it like you mean it. So I tried, and thankfully the Mustang did what I wanted it to, and we got to the winner's light.
And the proud dad, John, alongside, and it's tough to swallow when you spun the tire almost on the hit today, John?
Yeah, it's really tough. It went 50 feet and I was out, and sponsors pay great money here on the side of this car for us to win, and right now every Ford's out, Mike Neff, Robert Height, and myself, but got a female in here, and that'll beat up on the boys. Having a girl in there to try to win this race, anybody can do it, this kid can.
Thanks, guys.
Alan Johnson was on the pole Phoenix, but remember he lost in the second round to Mike Edwards. Dave Northrup, former Sportsman racer, he loves this stuff. He climbed up in the grandstands last night to watch Supergas and Supercom. Maybe thinking about going up there again.
Wow.
Low nice ET, and it's a 662 for Alan Johnson.
I'll tell you, though, Dave Northrup did a heck of a job driving that car because that car was all over the place. I thought he was going to have to shut off, but he's able to hang on. Watch right side of your screen. Goes towards the wall, goes towards the center, reels it back in, gets it stuck. Unfortunately for him, when your competition, Alan Johnson's running low ET of the meet in the other lane, you're not going to catch him when you got to use all this real estate. Look at the left-hand lane. That thing is sliding and sashaying. He did a great job of reeling that thing in, but like I said, just too much real estate used up.
Yeah, without that extra mileage, he just might have been the winner of that thing. Well, there's the professor, Warren Johnson, his record-setting 137th #1 qualifying start. It'll be Matt Hartford in the other lane. This is only his third race day start. All of them coming this season, but boy, does he have a job as he takes on Warren Johnson.
Yeah, Matt Hartford with that David Nickens horsepower. He knows he's got his work cut out, but Warren's not been all that great on the tree, as we have documented from time to time, but hopefully with this new car, he'll have some a little more excitement in him.
Hey, if you're in the area of South Texas, in just 2 weeks, we'll travel to Texas for the O'Reilly Spring Nationals. There are the times, ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD, the place. So here is Warren Johnson. He is looking for 10 wins here in Gainesville. You heard the story of the new car coming in. They just got it wrapped midweek. And he is set to go, and obviously it's in pretty good shape.
See it screwed down just in the wheelie bar. That's always critical for making these cars go straight, especially when the track conditions change like they have been. Obviously, the track is much different than what these cars saw during qualifying with only 2 runs and having the cloud cover. Now it's bright sunshine out there, and we can see it's a little bit slick. You can run the big number, but boy, if you miss it, it can be a heck of a ride.
There's the win for Johnson, 662 with the 1, and now he has low ET of the race. And that, too, is the top speed of the event. Well, Cruz Pedregon and Ron Tobler, they're thrashing on that car, trying to get it back so he can go racing once again. When we come back, we'll talk with Ron Tobler. Well, backing up, ready to go now in Gainesville, Mike Edwards and V. Gaines, our most recent winner. But first, let's go over the funny car pits. Here's Dave Reed.
The warm-ups going for Jack Beckman right across the street. Tony Pedregon, the next pit over. Ron Tobler, looks like this car is coming together pretty well. They got a new block inside of this thing within 11 minutes. You've had a chance to at least look at the computer data. I've looked at the motor. You've looked at the motor. Can we figure anything out yet?
Well, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with the engine. It didn't break a rod or anything that would typically cause it to backfire and blow the blower off. But, you know, the best we can have, after looking at the data, and Cruz confirms that the throttle hung open for some reason. And we're not exactly sure why yet. Everything mechanically appears to be okay, so we'll have to look a little further into it.
Now, they're still scratching their head about that, but the good news is it looks like they should be in pretty good shape. Just about ready to button this car up here and try to get it warmed up and get back up for second round.
Yeah, pretty diplomatic, Ron Tobler. V-Gaines. A little slow on the launch, and that may cost him. Yes, it does.
65.5 into 665.0.
So Mike Edwards runs a 665, 206. You heard that call. Coming off a good race at Firebird.
I know. V-Gaines was great on the lights all weekend in Firebird, but Mike Edwards at 200th of a second advantage off the starting line. As you can see, Motel 6, who got the light win, goes to Mike Edwards with that 0.22 reaction time, coupled with a 665.5, beats V-Gaines 665.0.
And at the line, here comes Jed Coughlin and Ron Krischer. But let's go to John Kernan, because, John, the bikes are here.
Bikes are coming up in just a moment as soon as Pro Stock's done. Angel Sampé, first round of competition on a Buell coming up. Qualified 7th, but qualifying is a little different than when you have to go out here and race in competition, isn't it?
It's always different. Qualifying was pretty stressful for us with only 2 rounds with the rain out, but we had an engine that went sour on us. We weren't aware of it. You know, with only 2 runs, you can't figure that out. So we got a new one in here. It's actually the one we did our testing with. So this S&S power is going to show you what we're capable of today. I just have to keep my head on straight as a driver, which I know everybody else is trying to do, and do a good job for Rush Racing, and I think we'll be able to make that happen today.
Best of luck to you.
You got a glimpse of Jed Coughlin Sr., his 70th birthday this weekend, and also Victor Cagnazzi celebrating a 50th.
That's all yours.
What's interesting, though, is Ron Krischer is running a motor from Cagnazzi and Dave Connolly's car for last year, and Tommy Utz there helping.
Tommy Utz over there helping until Dave Connolly finds a deal, and then he's going to go back and tune on Dave's car. But right now he is helping Ron.
You gotta love Pro Stock. Boy, they're great.
207.62, low for the round or late choice. Nice work, guys. I don't know what the hell Krischer was trying to do over there, but didn't work. Didn't work. Good job, guys.
Well, you heard the call.
Well, Krischer went in there and put both lights on pretty quick, maybe trying to throw Jeggy off, but Jeg's been doing this for a long time. It's pretty hard to throw him off, but with Pro Stock being as tight as it is, you look for any little advantage that you can get.
661 with an 8. That's low ET for the race thus far, as already they start to take a look at the car, make sure everything's in line, and move on to the next round for pit. Kurt Johnson. And this is the 35th time that KJ and Warren Johnson are either number 1 or number 2 in qualifying, and he will face Johnny Gray. Let's go to Dave Reef. He has Tony Pedregon, remembering that fire.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as his warm-up was done right next door, this first order of business, come over here, see what's going on. And Tony, with your explosion so fresh in your mind, what went through yours when you saw your big brothers?
Well, I was trying to watch him on track, and I had to glance over at the screen so I could see the damage before I heard the concussion. But very scary moment. It was for me. I'm sure he had his hands full. My biggest concern was I didn't want to see a fire flare up like mine. We don't want Cruz ending up on the Today Show, but, you know, I saw the car bouncing. I know they're evaluating the chassis, but I know I think they've located the problem, and it appears, I don't know if there was fuel pressure. Something hung the throttle open, so I'm glad he's okay. He's glad he won, and he'll get to the next round, but we got to make sure this car's good enough for him to get down the track.
I wonder what's easier, to be in one of those or to watch a family member and a fellow classmate go through that thing?
Well, it's got to be frightening. Look down track, so much smoke, fire, you don't know what's going on. So Johnny Gray, former Nitro racer, and Kurt Johnson. in his rather brief pro stock career. Whoa!
That is a huge upset there. I don't know what happened to Kurt Johnson. That car fell off big time, only running 677. Oh, there it is. He went way over towards the wall. Got that thing, was pretty much out of control wheel speed as soon as Kurt let the clutch out. Johnny Gray, there's the margin of victory, about a half a car length there off our Lucas Oil photo finish cam. Good job by Johnny.
Well, we have seen some racing here today, and we're just in first round. Let's take a look at the Lucas Oil Pro Stock Ladder. Looking ahead to round 2, Warren Johnson's got his work cut out for him as he faces Jason Line.
The other side of the ladder, too, you're going to have Jeg Coughlin going up against Greg Anderson. That's going to be a great matchup with Jeg having lane choice.
Well, coming up, it's Pro Stock Motorcycle, their debut for this season. Angel Sampey, new bike, new colors. Is she looking for yet more wins? You bet she is. North Carolina's Matt Smith went into the 2007 season with 2 career wins in Pro Stock Motorcycle. By the end of the year, he captured 4 more wins and his first Powerade championship. To defend the title, Smith will have to hold off a field of hungry riders, including 3-time Pro Stock Motorcycle champ Andrew Hines. The bikes are back here at Gainesville, and 08 looks like we're in for one heck of a ride. Oh, it does look like a major season in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Back in Cruz Pedregon's area, they work away on his machine. John Kernan, Gary Gerald, Dave Reef, they're all trackside, pit side, far end. And I'm Paul Page with Mike Dunn. Pro Stock Motorcycle, there have been some changes over the winter, Mike.
Musical chairs here. Obviously, Antron switches to Top Fuel. Angel switches to Buell. Reunites with George Bryce. Chip Ellis takes the ride over in the Suzuki with Don Schumacher Racing. And then Chris Rivas replaces Chip Ellis at G2 Motorsports. Peggy Llewellyn, poor Peggy, she's out looking for a ride. And then as far as a rules change, the V-Rods and the Buells are at 620. They gave back 10 pounds to the Suzukis to try to make them more competitive.
Let's take a look at Pro Stock Motorcycle in round 1.
First up, Chris Rivas against defending champion Karen Stouffer. Karen has problems early. Chris Rivas gets the win with a 705 at 186 miles per hour.
Angel Sampey, left side of your screen, comes up against Paul Gass, but that red light right at the start, that ends Gass Day, and Angel moves forward.
Next up, we got Angie McBride and Wesley Wells. Angie McBride trying to get her first career round win, and she does, but look how she does it. I mean, you talk about a wild ride. Take a look at this. The bike launches, it moves over towards the center line. She straightens it up, or at least she thinks she does, but then the bike wants to move over again, and she is hanging all the way off the side of that bike, putting her feet down and everything, and she hangs on to get the win. What a ride.
Oh, it ain't a good thing when you have that Michael machine moving right over there. Matt Gadira, #1 qualifier, and Hector Arana, and Gadira, boy, he is hot. He takes the win with a 695.
Next up, we got Eddie Krawick and Michael Ray. Eddie on the other V-Rod Harley wins it easily with a great 697 at 190 miles per hour.
And that brought up Chip Ellis and Sean Gann, and Gann couldn't answer the call. Ellis goes through and takes the win, running a 697 in doing so.
And the other Harley of Andrew Hines, he goes up against Junior Pimpin. This was all Andrew Hines as he lays down. A nice 696 at 185 miles per hour to advance to the second round.
The North Carolinian Matt Smith on his Buell against Eddie Murphy. And with the red light, this one belongs all the way to Matt Smith. Despite a little problem there at the start with it. The Lucas Oil Pro Stock Motorcycle Ladder in round 2. We'll see Matt Gadira still with a great weekend going against Chris Rivas.
Some good matchups on the other side, including Matt Smith going against Angel Sampey in that second round.
And Top Fuel will be coming up in just a few minutes. How about Hot Rod Fuller? He has to face Hillary Will, and she's been very quick. And Antron Brown takes on that man, Tony Schumacher. Back in beautiful, sunshiny Florida, the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series the ACDelco Gatornationals. I'm Paul Page with Mike Dunn. And let's take a look at the recap in Top Fuel.
Let's go back to round number one. Your number one qualifier, Alan Bradshaw on the other lane. Well, his day ended almost as soon as it began as he smokes the tires right off the hit. And Bruce Litton gets the win with a 4:65 elapsed time. Next up is Tony Schumacher, J.R. Todd. J.R. Todd, same problem. This was supposed to be a huge matchup, but he smoked the tires, and Schumacher gets an easy win with a 4:61.
And so as we take a look at the Lucas Oil Top Fuel ladder, and Tron Brown and Tony Schumacher about to come up. Litton will face Dixon.
You're going to see Hot Rod Fuller and Hillary Will, Michael Gunderson going against Brandon Bernstein.
So with Antron Brown, he comes up against Schumacher, rematch of round 2 at Phoenix.
Remember Phoenix, Antron was a little upset. Yeah, upset himself because he didn't backpedal the car as well as he thought he could have, and felt that he possibly could have won that race when Tony had engine problems down track. Right now, Lee Beard's hoping he didn't even have to worry about backpedaling. He's hoping this car goes from A to B. Antron just does his job of getting a good reaction time and hopefully the win for the Matco Dragster.
Antron Brown goes up in smoke as Tony Schumacher does it again. 4:59, 320 miles an hour.
Tell you, I mean, even when Tony Schumacher and Alan Johnson aren't the dominant race car, they're still just tough to beat. Sometimes they make guys beat themselves. You see the car, the front end moves over towards the wall a little bit and then starts spinning the tires. Antron Brown at that point knows he's pretty much done, because Tony Schumacher, as you take another look at, didn't make a great run, but he made a good run for the conditions. 4:59, 320 miles per hour.
Here comes Mike Gunderson and Brandon Bernstein. But first, let's go down to the far end, Gary Gerald.
Well, Johnny Gray, when you knock out a number 2 qualifier from the bottom half of the field, that must have special satisfaction, and you do it on a hole shot, that's even better. Your reaction?
I don't know. I mean, he must have been struggling because mine was shaking and sliding around, and it was a real ugly run. But Larry's been helping us with the car a little bit, and I guess we stepped the power up just a hair this morning is enough to make it shake and stuff. But KJ his run must have been real ugly. Is all I got to say.
Well, go shake yourself to another one.
Yeah, we're gonna try. Thanks a lot, guys.
What a good guy. Hey, Brandon Bernstein, Brandon Gunderson have both won in Top Alcohol Dragster. This was a moment for Brandon.
You saw the tire tracks, and this is what happened. The back end washed way out of the groove. Look how sideways that is. Now, you think normally the team would back up in the tire tracks, get in the good rubber. Well, not when it's that far out of the lane. They're just going to back up and go right down the middle of the lane.
Well, they're both in trouble, and here we go.
Yeah, Brandon got it.
Brandon got it back and took the win. Well, now all the other tuners in the line are going to have to say,
Things that make you go, Exactly. And that's what happens when everybody starts smoking the tires. Tony Schumacher, I thought, well, maybe he set it up a little soft one around 4:59, but that's starting to look like a very good run right now under these conditions. Take another look at it. Both cars are going to smoke the tires. Michael Gunderson smoked them. Well, they both smoked pretty much at the hit of the throttle. There he goes. One time, gets back on it. 2 time. 3 time, it rolls up into it again, gets out of it again. Going to try and get it one more time. There's a 4th time. It starts going down there, spins, he gets out of it again. 5 times, he just legs her down through there. Let's take a listen to this. It's always fun to listen to. 8,000 horsepower, and it says, I am not hooking up. I don't care what you guys say.
Brandon Bernstein, the winner in 2003 here, advances to the next round. And here comes Rod Fuller. Fuller will be up against Hillary Will. Hillary just back off that trip to Iraq and Afghanistan. Report that Del Worsen Dixon's got a few problems. Let's check in with Dave Reed.
Yeah, Paul, and I'll tell you what, it comes at a time when these guys maybe feel like they got the monkey off of their back. Remember, this is a team that didn't qualify at the first 2 races. Finally qualified here, finally got that first round win. We're starting to build some momentum, and you can see they're digging inside the clutch box right now. That's because they got a problem. The carbon dioxide unit, the air bottle on this car, for some reason, won't seal up, and it's been leaking air the entire time we've been up here. It seems now we can't hear that telltale sign, the psst noise of leaking air coming out of that race car. But still, they're just about a couple of pair away. Dell's strapped in, ready to go. But if they haven't got this problem fixed, Mike Dunn, what does not having any air going to do to that run?
Well, obviously none of the clutch systems and possibly even the fuel systems won't work. So you're pretty much dead in the water, but you're still not going to give up. You would go up there and do the burnout stage of the car and hope the other competition would make a mistake.
And the trip for Hillary, there's some pictures from when they went over there. And, you know, bless her for going over and spending some time with the troops. It's got to be a lot of apprehension involved in that. Ooh, there's not a good sight.
If you're a dad, that's a good sight. Hey, keep all them boyfriends away. I like that. Samantha, pay attention to that. I'm going to buy you one of them. Actually, Dad needs it.
Rod Fuller, who was so close to a top fuel championship last year. Fuller gets in trouble, and this belongs to Hillary Will. 469, 316 miles an hour. So Hillary will face Brandon Bernstein.
Hillary will have the lane choice. How about that, Hillary Will and Jim Oberhofer? Nice job getting that car down the racetrack on a very, very tricky racetrack. You see that both drivers had good reaction times, pretty much left together. Hot Rod had a slight advantage, but then he started spinning the tires in the middle of the racetrack. That's all Hillary Will needed. And she now goes to the semifinals.
Last time that she made the semis was at Englishtown last year. Let's go to John Kernan and see what Ron Capps is thinking after watching that big fire.
Well, right now he's thinking he'd like to be out there waiting in the staging lanes, but unfortunately a loss in the first round. But tell us about what you saw when you and Cruz were out there in that first round and Cruz exploded.
Well, I sit so far back in our Napa Dodge Charger. It's you've heard me and Selzy talk about it. If you're neck and neck with a guy, you can't see anything. And as soon as mine smoked the tires, then Cruz pulled out there, and I gave mine a pedal and then looked up, and I'm in a huge ball of fire. And I've been through that before myself. So as I'm rolling down there, the amount of smoke from the fire created this big piece of smoke right in my lane. I didn't know whether he'd wrecked and he was parked on the other side of the smoke. And I got on the radio real quick to my guys and said, oh boy, there's smoke here. And Ronnie at the starting line was going to tell me, he was watching the Motel 6 vision and let me know that Cruz had gotten further. But I almost was like Cold Trickle in Days of Thunder. It was like, hang on, here we go. And once I got through, I could see he was over my lane and getting a stop. He did a great job of stopping it. And it's almost like it's an omen we didn't make a full run because it could have been ugly down there. But he did a great job of getting a stop.
We'll see you at Houston.
You got it.
Bruce Litton and Larry Dixon. Dixon, who's won here 3 times. 1995, that was his rookie season, again in 01 and 02. And Bruce Litton is trying to make it into the first semifinal of his career. His last round win at St. Louis when he upset Brandon Bernstein. And then, of course, he wins today. First round.
I mean, it should be tough going against Larry Dixon. I mean, Larry's awfully hot right now, coming off that win in Phoenix, has a good race car here. The one saving grace for Bruce Litton, I believe, is the fact that we don't have any cloud cover. We've seen a lot of tire smoke. He's got to hope for that. But I'll tell you what, Donnie Bender, Todd Smith have been doing a very good job on this race car, not only running good numbers, but been running pretty consistent. Larry's been, like always, doing a great job on the lights, too. So he's going to be tough to beat.
And again, the lanes proved to be a problem on both sides. But the guy that masters it is Larry Dixon.
Larry Dixon, like always, doing his job as a driver. That's why he gets paid the big bucks, and he deserves every penny the snake pays him. Trust me. You're going to see right here, he's going to go out through the middle of the racetrack and start spinning the tires. Gets out of the throttle, gets back on. You see cylinders out, probably because they have a different timing curve. Took some power away so it wouldn't keep smoking the tires. Even so, it's still hazed on. Go on board and listen. You heard the cylinders out, and then you heard the RPM start to come up as it started spinning, the haze in the tires on the other end. But at that point, Larry knew even if he'd have got out of the throttle, it would have ran even slower. He might as well just leg it to the finish line. He did a good job.
Let's look at the ladders as we go to the semifinals. It will be Larry Dixon and Tony Schumacher, and Brandon Bernstein will face Hillary Will. And when we come back, it will be funny car. Tony Pedregon faces the lone remaining Team Force member, Ashley. And Cruz Pedregon's going to try to get everything back and on the track after that moment. It was loud and it was fiery.
Harvey's introduces the new Bigger Angus Burger. One flame-grilled patty of Angus beef, topped with
ketchup, onions, tomatoes, and pickles.
Ketchup, onions, tomatoes, and pickles. That's one Big Angus Burger for...
No, it's holy Mackinac, that's one Big Angus Burger.
Hey, Bowen, yeah, I do the announcing around here. At Harvey's, bigger is better with a new Angus Burger.
Harvey's makes your hamburger.
And Angus Burger.
Back at Gainesville Raceway, the NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series, and it is Funny Car. Second round on the line now. Del Worsham and Jack Beckman. Here's first round.
How many of you seen this before? Cruz Pedregon and Ron Katz. You're going to see Cruz just underpowered way past finish line. Like I said, I got to believe the throttle hung open because he's 300 feet past it, and then it blows up, and then at that point, he is just hanging on. Taking a look at it from on board. Big fire there, and then he starts getting that thing stopped.
And then Ashley Force in round one against Scott Coletta. Scott goes up in smoke right away. Ashley drifts a little to the right, but still, she takes the win. Here's the ladder. Pedregon and Ashley, and Cruz and Jim Head.
On the side of the ladder, you got Gary Densham and Del Worsham first pair out, and then Tim Wilkerson and Jack Beckman.
And they're both in trouble, and neither one really tries to recover it.
Well, I got to believe that possibly Dell's the problem he had. They did not get fixed, and he knew better than to get back on it. If none of the timer system or for the clutch or the fuel system, it probably would have blew the engine up. So I got to believe that probably contributed to Dell not getting back on it.
Good judgment there. So Gary Densham will take that win with an unmentionable time and speed.
766.
But a win, nevertheless.
118, I'll mention it.
It's kind of, you know.
Hey, how many people out there have gone a quarter mile in 7.66 seconds at 118 miles per hour? And he was only in the throttle for like a second and a half.
Dave Reeve has Chuck Worsham.
Chuck, it was a problem beyond the air bottle, too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a problem with the switch that went to set the clutch and the fuel timers off. If he'd have got back on it, it would have had no timing and no fuel, just blown up.
You guys had it exactly right, Mike.
Mike Dunn always has it. Well, mostly has it exactly right.
Mostly, not always, that's for sure.
Jim Head and Cruz Pedregon. So the work has paid off. And we'll see now who moves to the semifinals. Will it be Jim Head or how about that guy? The Cruiser. You know, it's a pretty fascinating show. I've seen some advances on it. From the shadows of segregation came basketball's unknown legends. They changed the game forever. Black Magic, presented by Russell and State Farm on ESPN tonight at 9. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Of course, when you look over there, a new body sitting on the car because the other one's in a bunch of pieces, many of them still down track.
Well, the interesting note is thus far we've only seen one car go down the racetrack without smoking the tires. That was Tony Schumacher with that 459. So these teams right now know that the track conditions are very tricky. Ron Tolbert ran a 486 with his driver Cruz in that first round. Jim Head went 490 in that first round matchup. Both of these guys are probably going to try to run about a 490 flat to try to get this round win based on what the conditions are showing.
Mike, a plausible explanation offered by Ron Tobler suggested that the car was hazing the tires down the racetrack and began to increase in RPM and rev up really, really high. And he said perhaps some extra fuel got jacked into the lines right there and just got stuck up in there as the car went on through the finish line and tried to stop.
And Rick Stewart went up and did some checking, then gave the shut him down indication. So what's going on there, Dana?
There's something wrong in the staging lane. Rick Stewart's shutting the cars down. They're going to push them back.
Looks like maybe there was something wrong with the staging beams at that point. We saw him go out there and put his foot in there, and if the beams aren't working where the driver can see where to stage the car properly, obviously they can't start the race, but we'll have to find out what happened.
And that's why we have microphones on our start line camera guys. Dana Sherman gives us the report. Ron Tobler looks over the top of the car, waiting to see what the problem might actually be and how it will be solved.
They're having trouble out here now with Cruz's car getting it shut off, but it's down now.
And that's the system drawing more fuel into the motor to at least keep it
So, silence.
All right, well, the normal procedure is here. First, they'll fix the problem with the Christmas tree, whatever's happening there with the staging. And then it'll be up to the team to decide what they can do. Sometimes they'll go back and want to put another clutch back in the car and cool everything up and refuel it. Sometimes they'll just go out there and say, hey, let's just go out there and start it, roll up there, and make the run, depending on how long they're going to sit out. But it is the team's decision, and both of them have to agree to it before they do that.
All right, so while they go to work with some of the electronics and the decisions are made, we're going to take a little break here. Funny car. We hope they'll be back running quick.
Back at the 39th annual ACDelco Gatornationals, where now we've had a little bit of a slip up here at the starting line as the power went out in the left lane. That's why Cruz Pedregon and Jim Head had to shut their cars down. In fact, right now, both of those cars are back in the pit area, giving the clutches a chance to cool off. When the crew chiefs have a chance to refuel these machines, they expect to have them back probably by the end of Pro Stock.
And so that will bring Tim Wilkerson and Jack Beckman to the line. They got it fixed pretty quickly there. That's good news. Tim Wilkerson had his funny car debut here in '96, qualifying and then losing in the first round to Richard Hartman. And Beckman coming off of that win at Phoenix. A look at Wilkerson, a 484 322.
Wow, there's a run in the heat for you. Everybody else is out there smoking the tires. Tim Wilkerson lays down a 484 and says, hello. Take another look at Jack Beckman, gets the advantage off the starting line by almost 200ths of a second, but that was that. All she wrote after that is you saw Tim Wilkerson just drive by and get the win. Nice job.
So the next pair coming up, Tony Pedregon and Ashley Force. The last hope for John Force Racing, the only John Force car left in the field.
And Tony Pedregon has the lane choice that shows that right-hand lane. Good news for Ashley Force is she just saw Tim Wilkerson run that 484 right in front of her, so her crew chief, Guido, knows that the track conditions got to be there. I mean, if they can just, I'm sure they're just going up there to try to run a mid-480 a lap time and see what happens. Tony Pedregon in the other lane, I'm sure his crew chief, Dickie Venables, he's probably looking to do the same thing, and we'll just have to sit back and see what happens.
Of course, a rematch of last year's Vegas final, won then by Tony Pedregon. Dickie Venables takes a look across, see what Guido Antonelli is doing.
Stating the obvious here, but it's very tricky track conditions, easy for me to say out there. But we did see that some cars can go down it and run a good number.
Oh, they both light up. We're into a pedal fest. And Pedregon is the one that's able to come back the strongest and first.
Good driving, Ashley. We blew it. You did good.
Heard Guido say that they blew it on the setup, but once again, it's very, very tricky out there. Let's take another look at it. Both cars leave. Tony Pedregon has slight advantage off the starting line. Ashley spun the tires just an instant before Tony did. Tony did do a better job of getting it to recover, though. He's been doing this for an awfully long time. He's one of the best in the business. We saw Ashley do a great job in Pomona. She didn't quite get it recovered as well as she did there. As the thing kept spinning, got her a little bit sideways, and then she realized she needed to give up the ghost, but Tony did a good job to get it into the next round.
If you were going to counsel on the driving, what would you tell her now?
Well, I mean, the main thing is is you just got to stay out of that throttle a little bit longer than you think you need to. You know, it's just one of those deals where, you know, the thing gets hooked back up and starts spinning the tires and you just want to keep it straight. I mean, I think she did a pretty good job. I mean, once it got that sideways, she got out of it. She knew it was over, and that's all you can do is just, you got to race your lane with your race car and let the numbers decide who wins. And unfortunately for her, that time it was Tony Petragon.
And they can make plenty of power.
Well, when we come to Pro Stock, we're going to have a special guest in the booth. Kurt Johnson has the chance to join us. He's always got some great input. And, of course, we'll be seeing Cruz Pedregon and Jim Head come back to the line and try to get their run done. And back at Gainesville in Jim Head's pit, they're trying to get that machine back, sorted out, ready to go once again, getting the clutch cooled off, but doing the same thing, of course, for Jim Head and Cruz Pedregon. And on the line, Pro Stock. Here is the Lucas Oil ladder.
Warren Johnson going up against Jason Line, Mike Edwards, and Alan Johnson. And on the second page, we got that great big matchup coming up between Jed Coughlin and Greg Anderson. Whoa!
Keep a hold of it.
Man!
Wow, a little funny car experience works for Gray as he takes the win. And Pro Stock is underway.
Take another look at this. I'll tell you what, this almost looked like Kurt Johnson and Johnny Gray in the first round. And Johnny Gray, once again, he was able to reel it in. He was a little more sideways this time. That thing was out of control. Justin Humphries had to give up the ghost, and Johnny Gray gets the win.
And since we're talking about Kurt Johnson, he has joined us here in the booth and can give a little insight to the whole thing. Let's start with what the track's doing to everybody. It gets hotter and more sun on it.
That track's going to be really ugly out there, and it kind of bit the ACDelco Cobalt first round. It just blew the tires off. It had 1,500 more RPM drive shaft speed at a half second in, and you can see Johnny Gray right there did a heck of a job. Had some tire shake, got out of the groove, but, you know, he's driven fuel alters before, so he had a handle on it, and we just lost by a few thousandths to him this morning.
Well, as Pro Stock continues on, we'll have KJ here to keep track of everything with us. And there is Jim Head's car already heading back to the line. And now remember, they had a shutdown due to a problem with the timing system. And then they had to put the cars back, get them ready to go. They'll bring them back out again as they are doing right now. And don't forget, in just 2 weeks, we're off to Texas. The series starts with qualifying on Saturday, March 29th, NHRA race day, and, of course, the finals from the O'Reilly Spring Nationals. And so back in the staging lanes, Jim Head is already there, and on the line, Mike Edwards and Alan Johnson.
Mike Edwards in this round by against Alan Johnson by virtue of getting that win over B. Gaines, our most recent winner on the circuit. Now he wants to get around another Mopar of Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson's usually awfully tough. Didn't have a good reaction time in the first round. He's going to probably need to step that up a little bit because Mike Edwards seems to have been on his game in the first round, and normally he is. He's a very good driver.
He had a couple of real good drivers there. He's going to be up in the crew chiefs to win this race. So Alan's off to the right.
And off his pace, too.
Exactly. That right lane it's a little tricky at 100 foot out there.
Mike Edwards takes the win, runs a 669 at 207 miles an hour.
Now, is there anything you can see on the track, because we've noticed that even in the fuel cars, I mean, if they're hooked up and they're going straight, they're pretty good. But if they get loose, I mean, it's almost like they're on ice, which we've noticed Pro Stocks do. But even the fuel cars look like they're really sliding out more so than normal. Is there anything on this racetrack that you can see that's making that happen?
Well, these cars are making so much power now. They're making 1,400 horsepower, and they're real light on the back end. You know, they're aerodynamic, they're light on the back end. You know, it's easier to push a wheelbarrow than it is to pull one. So you get one tire out of the groove, and it becomes a mess with one of these cars.
Well, I think I know who you're going to be rooting for in this pair. Your dad, Warren Johnson, going up against Jason Line. This is always a great matchup. But how's your dad liking this new car?
Well, obviously he had lane choice here, and he's only got about 11 runs on this car, and he's taking the left lane. So they've obviously seen something that didn't look good in the right-hand lane, because he ran that 62 in the right lane this morning at 209. So they made a lane change here.
The stat guy's been watching the professor, too.
Oh, no doubt about that one, Paul Page. Last year in 2007 combined, Warren and Johnson had starts 4th or higher just 5 times the whole season. This year, they've qualified 4th or higher at every race that combined 6. They're making horsepower back in the shop in Georgia.
It's just a lot of wrench turning right there. That's all that was.
That was you and all that dyno work making all that horsepower, right?
We burned up a lot of VP gas and you know, lit them ACDelco spark plugs.
Well, it is interesting that your dad did take the left-hand lane. It is interesting for people at home don't realize that, you know, you ran so good in that lane. Why would you switch over to that left-hand lane, you know?
We'll find out right here.
That's right, because we know they change from round to round, run to run. It doesn't matter. You're constantly having to stay on top of that, right?
Exactly.
Got the view over from Jason Line's car, and Line takes the win as Warren just fades right at the start. You're right, lane choice might have been an issue.
Well, Jason had a problem first round in that right-hand lane. You know, he shook real hard and ran a 1044, so obviously they worked on the car and got it fixed. Well, it definitely bit the GM Performance Parts GXP that run.
It's hard to tell from that onboard camera. Let's take a look from here and see. Oh, it definitely got big time loose there, didn't it?
Looks like some typical pro stock tire shake there, where it squatted the rear end and the tires rubbed the wheel wells, and it's all over.
Well, and the technicians have been hard at work making sure we had plenty of onboard coverage. You look right now at Greg Anderson, and over in the other lane on board 2 with Jed Coughlin. This is a rematch of the finals from the Winter Nationals.
That win went to Greg Anderson, if I remember correctly, but these two always race each other hard when they go head-to-head.
All yours.
But with the tricky track conditions, it always just makes it that much more interesting to watch.
Well, we'll see who was smarter back in the pit area right here. Got a problem with that right-hand pre-stage ball there.
Yeah, you saw that the whole shot come right off the top as Jeg takes the win.
He had to hang on to his smoke here, but obviously good enough to get the win. Good job. Excellent job.
16 thousandths of a second advantage off the starting line for Jed Coughlin. That's what he needed because Greg Anderson ran a little bit quicker. If you look at the Lucas Oil photo finish cam, 21 10,000ths of a second. That's your margin.
That race was worth the price of admission right there.
Yes, it was.
And so with that run, Jeg goes into the lead in the points. And KJ, we thank you very much for joining us, and hope that we see you in here less and less.
I wish the cameras would have been at the end of the day instead of that after first round. But
exactly.
Good being here.
We'll go do it in Houston.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
In fact, that's where we're going. And in just 2 weeks, we've got, though, this one run in funny car left to go. We'll show you the Pro Stock semi-final matchups. Jason Line, Mike Edwards, they'll face one another. And it'll be Johnny Gray and Jeg Coughlin. Well, if you remember just a little bit ago, Rick Stewart, the starter, ran on both sides of the track and was trying to get his foot through the beam for the staging lights, and it didn't work. They got things going. The cars are back on the line. There's Cruz Pedregon. There's Jim Head. And we're ready now for their run.
And Paul, really the only thing that both of these teams did is went back to their pit areas, took the top off the clutch can to let that cool off a little bit, change the oil, make sure that's all fresh and new, and refuel it. Plus, it gives both of these crew chiefs, Johnny Davis for Jim Head and Ron Tobler for Cruz Pedregon, a little extra time to think.
Well, the weight was worth it. Oh, 493, 318 for Jim Head on a great race.
Boy, that was a good drag race.
So Jim Head, he comes off that semifinal finish at Phoenix. He lost there to Beckman, and now he's on his way to the semis again.
Cruz had 300s off of the starting line, but then that 493 was able to drive around Cruz Petragon's 496. Just another great side-by-side drag race here in Gainesville, Florida.
And here are the semifinal matchups. We can now give them to you in a funny car. Tony Pedregon and Jim Head will face one another. And it will be Tim Wilkerson against Gary Densham. So let's go back and take a look as Pro Stock Motorcycles come to the line at second round. The Geico one to watch, Angel Sampey. New team back with George Bryce. Could be a great year for her.
Look at that career with George Bryce, 90 races and 31 number one qualifiers, a tremendous win-loss record, 3 championships. Now going to go for her 4th Powerade championship with George Bryce.
And Angel will go up against Matt Smith. Defending Powerade champion Matt Smith takes it. Remember, he broke in first round, but Eddie Murphy went red, and so that was a real gimme for him. Now he comes back and beats Angel Sampey.
That's all your defending Powerade champion needed, was that one lucky break in the first round, because he lays down a nice run. Got the advantage off of the starting line by 0.02 of a second and never looked back. 696 at 189 miles per hour gets him into the semifinals.
Here is Eddie Krawick, and Eddie will face Chip Ellis. Eddie had a 001 light in the first round, and for Chip, this is his first start for Schumacher Electric and Don Schumacher.
You know, and Chip Ellis had an 012 reaction time. They both bought riders around a 697. Oh.
There goes the red for Eddie Krawick.
Well, he knew he had to push it because Chip Ellis had a good bite.
Eddie, who had 4 fouls last year, starts out the year with 1, and Chip Ellis takes the win on the merits of a 701, 185-mile-an-hour pass. Gadara and Rivas. Gadara racing from the pole for the very first time. And that one belongs to Gadara. 694, 192-mile-an-hour pass. I'll tell you what, he scores that number 1. Now he continues his winning ways. He is having a day.
I'll tell you what, that bike of Matt Gadara, that thing is just unbelievable. He gave up a little bit off of the starting line, but boy, he knows he can afford to do that with the horsepower he's got, the runs he's making. 694, nice job.
Well, here's Angie McBride, who won her first round of racing earlier today. She'll face Andrew Hines. She had quite a moment coming down the track in that first round. She's part of Matt Smith's team, and of course Andrew Hines won his first ever race here in 2004, and in 2005 he made the first ever 6-second pass here. Well, Andrew just nailed it coming off the line, carries it all the way to a 695, 190-mile-an-hour pass. And as Andrew Hines slows to a stop, we'll look at the semifinal matchups now for Pro Stock Motorcycle. Chip Ellis and Gadara will face one another. And you just saw Andrew Hines. Back in Hillary Will's pits, they're getting ready. Top Fuel is coming up shortly, the semifinal round. Hillary will face Brandon Bernstein. And Larry Dixon will face Tony Schumacher in their ongoing battle. This telecast is available on ESPN2 HD, presented by Olivia. Oh, look at the Pro Mod car. That's Kurt Coons from California. He not only races that machine and has a little trouble getting the head gasket exactly right, but he's also racing in top alcohol funny car. And now it's time for a battle of the Titans before this enormous crowd at Gainesville. Larry Dixon, Tony Schumacher. Two of the greatest Top Fuel drivers in history. Each has 42 wins, a tie for second all time, and just 10 away from the great Joe Amato's Top Fuel record. Dixon and Schumacher are living legends, and they're writing history right before our eyes. So we look at the Top Fuel ladder presented by Lucas Oil coming into the semifinals. Dixon and Schumacher face one another once again. But first, it's going to be Hillary Will and Brandon Bernstein over there on the right side. And that one is Brandon. Hillary Will has had a stout day, but Brandon Bernstein with a 4.666 takes the win and goes to this final.
In black, looking at his driver, Hillary Will, to see what the number said on the other end. Good race. Brandon had the advantage by about 200ths of a second off the starting line. That's what he needed. Both cars hooked up right down the track. You see Brandon drift a little to the right out of the groove. Might have cost him a little bit of an ET, but still gets that win with a nice 4.66 at 322 miles an hour, about half a car length of the strike.
So, Larry Dixon and Tony Schumacher. And Schumacher just taking his time as Alan Johnson signals him forward. Don't forget, Pro Stock Motorcycles are also here. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, a couple of our semifinalists side by side here, and we start with the defending series champion, Matt Smith. Your dad, Ricky, I understand, flew in from Bahrain in the middle of the night so he could be here today. Is that right?
Yeah, he's been over there tuning some Pro Mod cars, and he flew back so he could come down here and help us a little bit. So we're glad to have him here, and we got to thank Kenny for Nitro Fish and Mac Tools and Redline Oil for stepping up and helping us out here.
We'll see you in the next round. And over here with Matt Guidera, who's stringing together some real impressive runs, mid-90 after mid-90. What has this team found and what's made the difference?
Just a lot of work in the off-season. I got to thank Steve Sarrazza back at the race shop. Did a great job on my motors. Mohegan Sun fuels real fast today, and just trying to keep it consistent and make good laps.
Thanks, guys.
Well, here we go with a rematch of last year's final round. That one was won by Tony Schumacher. Also a rematch of the semis at Phoenix. That was won on a hole shot by Larry Dixon. So this can be anybody's game, and these two guys continue to hammer at that number trying to catch Joe Amato.
And I can assure you that Tony Schumacher remembers the fact that he got beat on a hole shot at the last race in Phoenix, as does that man. Good lever, Tony Schumacher. Great lever, Larry Dixon. Tony's going to have to step up a little bit because Larry has been a little bit quicker on the lights, but he's done it before.
Tony Schumacher. Schumacher goes to the final to face Brandon Bernstein.
Boy, that was ugly, but hey, you'll take it any way you can get it. Wow, another look at it. I mean, Larry did have the jump off the start only by 100th of a second. That's probably about normal. He's been consistently in that 050 range, doing a great job. Again, both cars will had cylinders out shortly after they hit the throttle, and then they were just starting to eat the engine up. But you're in eliminations. You just leg it to the other end, no matter what's going to happen. And boy, a lot of engine damage just going board with Larry. You see the cylinder out over on the left-hand side. Boy, the engine just went flat at the other end and cost him the win.
So the Top Fuel final is set, and funny cars are ready to see who will go to the money round. And we'll start off with the pairing of Tony Pedregon and Jim Head. And how about that Lucas Oil funny car ladder? Going to the semifinals, Pedregon and Jim Head, Gary Densham and Tim Wilkerson. and lights the tires right on the head of the throttle. And Tony Pedregon, his road to funny car recovery continues after that explosion at Pomona.
Pedregon's having a good day today, getting that car down the racetrack. Remember the previous round against Ashley Force, he won in a pedal fest, so they wanted to make sure the car got hooked up. Jim Head spun the tires as soon as he hit the throttle, pretty much in it. But look at that left lane. Tony's right down the middle of that lane. Engine probably, they took some timing out down there, was running a little bit flat on the other end. That's why it ran only probably a 503. Sure, they're trying to run a little bit quicker than that, but probably not a whole lot based on the track conditions and the fact that they spun the tires in the previous round. They know they have to get that thing hooked up all the way to the other end to try to get into the final, and they did it.
Our next pair, Gary Denson, and there is Tim Wilkerson. And for a Valvoline Pit Report, a little bit earlier, Dave Reeve caught up with Tim Wilkerson.
First 2 races of the year, this was the #1 qualifier in funny car who had troubles in eliminations. Well, now you're not the #1 qualifier, and you come here to what's been a very tricky Gainesville Raceway, and you look like you might have the car to beat today. Is it a car that can win this race?
Well, I think it is, yeah. We just got to not screw up, right? I mean, the first round we had a little gift. Neff was way out in front of me, and he struck the tires. Ours had a hole out early. I got it all tuned up, and it made the fastest lap of the round last run. But, Gary Denson was nobody to take lightly. He's got a Chevy Impala, too, and we're just going to do our best for Levi, Ray, and Shout. See if we can get down the track, get by Gary.
Conditions are very much the same right now. If they can run that number again, coming up against Gary Denson, they're going to be pretty tough.
Well, Tim had the low ET of the second round. Gary Denson, he's trying to go to his first final round with his own team since he left John Force.
And that low ET of 484 in the previous round, that was a huge run based on the conditions. I believe it was just a very, very good run. But that kind of concerns me a little bit. You got to be very careful. It might be running on that ragged edge and wanting to spin the tires.
Well, Tim Wilkerson says he owes Ditcham for one at Pomona. Said they spun the tires at the end of that last run, so they had to put a new motor in it. They're going to try a run of high 480s.
Oh, we got a race. Dencham, the whole shot, 496, 311 miles an hour. Marty's getting a workout today.
That was a race.
The one-man party, and he's cheering them on.
Marty's going to be buying Gary extra drinks tonight for that driving job he just did. 0.05 of a second advantage off the starting line for Gary Dencham over Tim Wilkerson. That was the difference when his 496 beats out Tim Wilkerson's quicker 492 elapsed time. Gary Dencham is in the final round of the Gatornationals.
Take a look at that at the finish line and the times down the track.
Gary got off the line first, and Tim was chasing him all the way to the other end, but couldn't catch him.
And so we're all set up. There's Marty. Marty, we call him the one-man party. And the crowd here, I'll tell you what, it is enormous, and they're going to see a great set of finals. We've already set the stage for two of them, while Tony Pedregon and Gary Dencham, former teammates at John Force Racing, are going to go at it in the funny car final. And up at the top end, Gary Gerald has Gary Dencham.
Well, Gary Dencham, round after round, you keep throwing it down. The last one was ugly. This was solid all the way. But you were almost not a competitor this weekend. What tipped the scales and brought you to Gainesville?
Well, being the great guy I am at business, we were in the top 10, so we get a $2,000 tip. We come here, so I'm going to spend $30,000 to get that $2,000. No, we're having a great time, and Greg's doing a great job, and the crew's doing a great job. And, hopefully we can get one more round in here.
Well, we're going to find out shortly. Wish you well.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, and the final round may be a little too much for one man. We're going to keep the medics very close. Stick around.
You got a choice to make. If you really want it, you can go hard or go home. You got a choice to make. Don't stop, don't quit. Go hard or go home. You got a choice to make. Do you really want it? You can go hard or go home. Watch TV. You got a choice to make. So what's it gonna be? Go hard or go home.
Moving closer and closer to the end of the day, the semifinal round in Pro Stock. Nitro has already been determined. And now coming to the line, Jason Line and Mike Edwards. There are the ladders presented by Lucas Oil. Johnny Gray and his super day, and Jake Coughlin will be the next pair up. Now, Mike Edwards has trouble right off. It'll be Jason Line moving to the final. We'll find out who he'll run against. You know, it's too bad for Mike Edwards. He's the first driver at consecutive races to have perfect reaction time in the pro classes ever.
Well, you know, that's all and good, but Jason Line's got the better stat for the second race in a row. He's going to the final. That's the numbers that we as drivers like to hear more than anything, and Jason Line does a great job to get him into the final.
As Johnny Gray and Jake Coughlin get ready, Gary Gerald's at the far end.
Well, Brandon Bernstein, this is a racetrack where you won, what, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
But then you hadn't won a round since. Now, excuse me, you're going to the finals. You got me all choked up, pal.
It feels great. You know, yeah, I mean, we haven't had the greatest luck here in Gainesville, but, you know, hey, we're building on it. And, you know, our Budweiser Lucas Oil car is going down the track right now. And we got a freebie in that second round and got past them. But, you know, it's going to be a series final.
And he has lane choice.
Well, Jake's looking to go to his fifth final here. He won here in 2001, and his year has been good as well.
And
runner-up at Pomona.
You look at the numbers and say Johnny Gray doesn't have a chance, but boy, how can you say that? I mean,
he doesn't have a chance to be here now, but he's here.
Yeah, and you know, this is drag racing. You're gonna go out there and give it your best shot, and you know, if he can get the thing hooked up, make a decent run, maybe he's gonna have a shot at it. He hasn't done it yet, but he's already in the semifinals.
Is there any way I can get away with it or no? No way, it's the right one.
Roy Simmons talking with Jag, asking if they can get away with something. I missed the first part of that conversation because I was too busy talking. But
hey, that's what they pay you to do.
Whoa,
it's goodbye, Jag. You cannot watch the other car. Jag Coughlin runs a 6.66. 208 miles an hour, and he moves to the final.
That 6.66 is going to give him lane choice. You see, big difference when you got 0.2 of a second advantage, over 0.2 of a second advantage off the starting lane. That's what it looks like. It's only 0.2 of a second, but that's a long ways in drag racing.
And so once again, we're going to see a Cagnazzi and Summit Racing matchup. It'll be Jason Line and Jake Coughlin when we go to the final round. Speaking of Jason, Gary Gerald has it.
Brand new race car. Are you happy with the way it's working? You're going to a final, or are you still shaking out the bugs?
I'm not happy with the way the car is working at all, but happy that we're in the final, of course. You know, it's all in all a pretty good day for Team Summit. It'd be nice to finish the job in the final. Unfortunately, we're hoping for both cars there, but that's the way it goes, and we'll try to do a better job. The good news is we got one more run to get it figured out. So we got a very tough customer in the final, but we're going to give it all we got.
All right, we'll get back and get a word with Jeggy here in just a moment, Paul.
Well, Pro Stock Motorcycle, here is the ladder presented by Lucas Oil. And I'll tell you what, this field is going to be so competitive this year. We start out with Matt Smith and Andrew Hines.
Perfect light for Andrew Hines.
Not always intentional, but when it works, it works. Andrew Hines, 6.97, 190 miles an hour to a 6.97 with a 3. Let's go back to Gary Gerald.
Well, Jake had to go to the opposite side of the car and get the shades out. Now, on the radio, we heard you talking. Yes, he is cool at all times. We heard you talking to Roy on the radio, and you were saying, can we get away with it? What were you hoping to get away with?
Well, they were suggesting I shut the thing off up there. We had it shook a little bit on the burnout, and one of our Heims on the wheelie bar, the right wheelie bar, which is the one we put a couple thousand pounds of pressure on, broke. So we had a right wheelie bar dangling, and they wanted me to shut it off. I said, man, there's no chance in heck I'm going to shut this thing off right now. And basically, and I just gritted down and said, man, let's get it on. And I felt like it was going to leave the starting line and make a real hard move, but fortunately, like the last couple of rounds, we've had a little bit of wheel speed speed, which kept the front end down, kept it off that wheelie bar, and just drove right down through there. And when light came on, I was amazed, and I'm very happy to go into the final, and couldn't believe we had lane choice to boot. But we'll give Jason a good run for his money, and hopefully bring home a Mac Tool or a Gatornationals crown here. The ACDelco Gatornationals have been outstanding, and I got to thank all of our friends at Jegs and Snap-on Tools for putting us out there.
All right, they're breathing a big sigh of relief. Should be an easy fix for the
Chip
finals.
Ellis had a problem with his bike. He took it to get in gear or something, but he shut it down, so it's a single run.
Yeah, there he is, Ellis walking it away. Matt Gudera is having a super day, is on his way into his 4th career final round. Let's go to John Perrin.
And I just talked to Chip Ellis's crew chief, Steve Tartaglia, and he told me that they're not quite sure what the problem was. It's something in the engine. When they fired it up, the engine just did not sound right to them. So rather than take it down the track and risk blowing it up and having a big old mess out there, they decided to just pull the bike off of the line.
Well, the stage set for all of the finals as we add in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Matt Gudera and Andrew Hines. That'll be a wonderful matchup. Now it's time once again for a Valvoline Pit Report. There's Dave Reed.
Well, Paul, one thing's for sure, the U.S. Army Top Fuel team has had more dominant days in making it to the finals. After having a conversation with Alan Johnson, he tells me that they've really had a couple of things bite this team just today that probably will cost them some of those first-round losses that they suffered a year ago. Is this just a game of give and take then?
I think no question about it. You know, sometimes you run against a car who's your number 1 qualifier, they're number 16, and they run low ET of their career against you, and sometimes they don't. This day's going definitely well for us. We're not running the most stellar numbers, but we're beating the other guy, and I think that's important. That's Larry Dixon in the other lane. At any given time, he could have won that round and run much better. We both put cylinders out. We both had it all going bad, and we just got there first. It was a lucky break for us.
He's got another big one. Brandon Bernstein coming up in the Top Fuel final. Gary Gerald?
Dave, with Andrew Hines, who for the second time in his career has a perfect light. And, man, you needed it here. You guys run identical ETs, but you're going to a final against Matt Gudera. What do you got for Matt? Because he's been running solid 90s, mid-90s all day long.
Well, you know, my other perfect light came against another guy named Matt Hines. That was his last race, but he ended up beating me on that one. So, you know, I'm going to try and be a little more conservative. I don't want to be 00 in the final round. I'll be happy with the 20 light. Screaming Eagle V-Rod, it's doing its job right now. If we get it to go a little straighter, thing might pick up a couple hundredths, and I won't have to hang off and get out of the tuck in this thing.
All right, we look forward to it. Thanks.
You know, the great Darrell Gwynn is here, and the fans just flocked to him. Mike Dunn, you were driving for him in '99.
Got the win here at the Gatornationals, one of the best wins of my career. Beating Doug Herbert in the final at the time was the quickest side-by-side drag race in history.
Gigantic crowd here today under a beautiful Florida sky, and we are ready now for the finals. Let's take a look at who's there. Tony Schumacher, looking for his 72nd career win, the defending champion, but he'll have to take down the 03 winner, Brandon Bernstein. What about Tony Pedregon? He won here in 02. Gary Densham won here a year later in Pro Stock. Jake Coughlin, the 01 winner, and he faces Jason Line, who won in 05. Matt Gudera hasn't won here, the only one in the finals, because Andrew Hines won in 04. Pro Stock Motorcycle on the line. Both these riders have run in the 6s all day.
Boy, this is a great matchup. The two best motorcycles going head-to-head here in the final. Oh, Matt.
Unbelievable. Matt just rocketed out there.
Andrew was just dead late.
And Matt Gudera wins from the pole in his first ever #1 start. Congratulations, Matt Gudera. He was ready for that. I wonder what Andrew was looking at.
Well, I mean, Matt had a good race time. Wasn't great, but Andrew was just late. Something had to have distracted him. But give it to Matt Gudera and that team. Great job. Take another look at it. I mean, the bike did spin the tire awfully hard, but still, Andrew was dead late off of that starting line. Matt Gudera, though, like I said, give credit to that entire team. What a dominating performance. Consistent all day. Matt did a great job riding a well-deserved victory.
He's had, about to say nearly perfect, an absolutely perfect day, and every reason to celebrate. Pro Stock Cars, their final. It's a classic matchup. KB and Cagnazzi both have won the championship. Both have won here before. There's Jeg Coughlin. He will face Greg Anderson. Let's go to Dave Reef.
Rick Manny, how about your day today? Did you have any problems with that bike, and all if so, what was it?
Absolutely not. I've got a great crew chief, Lynn Gadara. Him and I share the tuning duties. Lynn's Mohegan Sun, Rockland Motorsports powered Buell, and he was able to pick up my slack. I've had the flu, and I've been literally in the motorhome all day. This is my first time to the racetrack, so I got to give all the credit to Lynn Gadara, Matt Gadara, Vic Gadara, all the boys at Rockland Motorsports, Mohegan Sun, Brian and Linda Bosom, everybody. We've got an awesome team, and we're just cutting the cake here. You're going to see more coming.
Celebration coming tonight.
So you look at Jason Line. Last time these two guys met up with the final round in Chicago in 07, it was won by Jeg. Jeg's such a great leaver.
Okay, Jeg, a foot, and it's all yours.
Well, Jason Lyne's been getting some good reaction times though this year because he's been practicing. As you see Jeg Sr. looking on at his son. You're right, Jeg is nobody better in the business of doing this. Jason, if he can do what he's been doing lately, let's see what happens.
Well, there you see it right there.
Yep, Jeg got the jump, and Jason got a little sideways off the starting line, and that was it.
You took the win. Good job, Jiggy. Good job.
So Jeg Coughlin takes the win.
A lot of wheel speed down low, but obviously we got away with it.
And that is his 39th career win. You see all the hugs for Jeg Sr., who just turned 70 years old. Let's go to Dave Reef. He's got Jeg Sr.
And it all starts with a great big happy birthday, Wally, coming your way, Jeg. What does it mean to have such a great birthday and then pick up a win like that with your son?
Oh, I'll tell you what, this is just outstanding. It's the icing on the cake when you think about Jeg's Automotive back in Ohio and the way they support us, and Jeggy the way he drives, and this guy here that just does everything to make everything work, and Cagnazzi. I love it.
Roy Simmons, of course, the crew chief. His first final coming in 1959. His son got the job done today, Gary.
And while they celebrate a birthday and a victory, here's Matt Gadara holding a Wally for the second time in his life, but the first time at the Gainesville Nationals. First time for you to qualify #1. What does it mean to come and back that up with a victory?
Oh, it means everything. I mean, we had the best performing bike of the weekend. We showed it in qualifying, and all we had to do was come out here and win the event, win every single round, and we did it. It was just awesome. Got to thank Mohegan Sun, Rockland Harley Davidson, Royal Purple, Mac Tools. The crew did such a good job. Everybody back at the race shop, my brother, Len, ACDelco for putting on the Gatornationals, ESPN, Powerade. Everybody, it's just awesome.
I think it's party time.
Absolutely.
What a great day for Matt Gadara. In fact, when he rolled in, he got to shake hands with Willie G. Davidson, the Vice President of Styling for Harley Davidson. Big moment. Now let's go off to John Kernan.
With Jeg Coughlin and Jeg climbing up on the car to do a little bit of a celebration. Jeg, congratulations. You guys kind of dodged a bullet there in that last round, but it all was worthwhile.
Man, it sure was. What a weekend at this ACDelco Gatornationals, man. For the whole Jegs and Jegs.com crew, man, congratulations, man. We hustled our way through this thing, just 2 qualifying runs, and ended up #3 and worked our way through a real tough field today. Had a little challenge there in the semis, as we talked about earlier, and I couldn't be happier. Today my dad's birthday was yesterday, 70, and Victor Cagnazzi, my team owner, was good old Hawaii 5-0 on Friday. So happy birthday to them, and congratulations. This one's for both of them and the whole team back in Mooresville. To take Jason out in the final, man, he's obviously going to be tough, but we're glad to get out front and never look back.
All right, congratulations.
Pro Stock is always close and everything, including the points. As you saw there, we gave you the point for Pro Stock at the conclusion of this event. Coming up, Nitro, Top Fuel. Tony Schumacher trying to take down Brandon Bernstein. Tony Pedregon will face Gary Densham. Final rounds are next in Nitro. Gary Densham. Tony Pedregon, the funny car final, Mike Dunn.
Good matchup here. Gary Densham has never won a race in his own with his own team. All his wins have come out of John Force Racing. Right now he's got to get around Tony Petron in the other lane.
Both drivers have one funny car win here at Gainesville, both racing for Team Force when they did win.
You look at the temperature there, 83 degrees, but right there, that track temperature, 114, still relatively warm. That means it's still going to be a little tricky out there for the fuel cars in this final round.
And I was talking to Gary Densham heading into this final round, and I asked him, when you came to the track this morning, what do you think your chances were of making it to the finals and possibly winning today? He said, hey, the way the funny car class is right now, as competitive as it is, if you qualify, you have a legitimate shot on winning on Sunday. And he hopes that everything goes his way right here in the final.
Well, as Mike suggested, this could be a big moment because Gary's never won as a car owner. He's raced his own car for the better part of 24 years. And what a comeback this would be for Tony Pedregon after the explosion at Pomona. Wow, another super race. Pedregon almost goes over and catches the wall, but he wins in doing so. First bad moment for Marty.
Marty, he's like, we just barely missed it. So close. But give credit to Tony Pedregon, Dick Venable. Tony had the advantage off the starting line by about 200ths of a second. That was the difference. Both drivers ran about pretty close to identical elapsed times, 492s a pair, 315 miles per hour for Tony Pedregon to get the win.
And Dave Reef, I'm guessing Dickie Venables is pretty happy.
Oh, very happy, as well as Ron Tobler over to congratulate him. Dickie, what this team has accomplished since that major explosion, how do you explain this team being able to come back and just 9 passes after that, you're hoisting a Wally?
It's just teamwork. It's hard work, dedication. I've got good backup and Kurt Elliott and all the rest of the guys, and we just stayed at it, you know. It was just it was a good day. One thing that is on everybody's mind here is Eric Medlin, and I'd like to recognize that. I know you're with us, Eric, but good drag race. You know, Gary, he's tough, so we're just happy to get the win.
Send along our sentiments, as well as I imagine there's going to be some folks having some ice cream later tonight.
And with Tony Pedregon as he accepts the Wally, Dickie Venables talking about the loss a year ago of Eric Medlin, and I know that hangs on all of the shoulders of every competitor this weekend. But considering what you went through so recently and the drama, to come back, to be a winner, what does that mean to you, TP?
Well, it means a lot. You know, it means I've got a great team, and you know, for us to be able to rise from the ashes, you know, after that ordeal in Pomona, pretty spectacular. But you know, God bless Eric and his dad, John, for having the strength and for being so proactive and making these cars safer. And I know I'm like a brother, and just for being so smart, and again for helping us develop all of these things that make these cars better. I've always said this is a great sport. When I get in that car, I got a family, and they want me to be safe. Appreciate Q Horsepower. It was hot out here. The hotter it gets, the better it works. And Prestone and great stuff, and Snap-on and Herzog, Malou family, the Palms, and just everybody that kicks in for this car, because a little bit of a rough start, but you know, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to get back in the top 10, and looks like we got a little bit more. Want to say hi to McKeever over there at Willow Springs. I'll be racing with those guys soon, and what a great day, what a great race. ACDelco guys know how to put on a heck of a show, and hey, it doesn't get any better than this, man.
See you in Houston. All right.
His 37th funny car race win. But now here comes Brandon Bernstein, who has not won since last summer at Brainerd. And Tony Schumacher, interestingly enough, Mike, Schu's the only driver that has a winning record against Brandon in the final round.
Well, that's because Brandon Bernstein is so good in final rounds. He's won his first 5 final rounds right off the get-go, and he's been pretty good ever since then. That man right there, Tim Richards, he knows how to run these cars, and when he gets dialed in, he's usually pretty tough. Racetrack, which we said is pretty tricky, but we saw both funny cars make good runs down this track.
There you go, Tony Schumacher, a 460 with a 325 miles an hour to a losing 466 at 323. Let's go to Stat Guy. A little watch on Schumacher.
No doubt about that. It took him 11 races last year to win just 2. This year, we're into our 3rd race. He's already won twice, and you all know how they race at the end of the season. That's how they've won championships the last couple years.
Up at the starting line, Dave Reef has Alan Johnson.
Shaking the hand of each and every member of his U.S. Army crew. Alan, it's 20 years ago at this racetrack, you got your first win as a crew chief. You might remember the driver. He was your brother.
Yeah.
Now you just keep stacking these darn things up. How do you do it?
You know, we got a great team over here, and we got a good sponsor, provides us all the tools that we need. And, you know, won a race here 20 years ago, never really looked back, just tried to get better every year, and if you do, you can win.
We're looking at one very smart crew chief. Gary Gerald.
And with Tony Schumacher. Tony, the way you've come from behind in recent seasons to win championships, how good does it feel to get such a strong start, picking up 2 Wallies the first 3 events?
Absolutely fantastic. We've done it before. We've started out strong. Just the last couple of years, we've been hurting in the beginning of the year. But Alan Johnson, it's kind of a funny story here. Obviously, for the Army, you got to thank Gates, Belts, and Hoses, and Valvoline, and Napa, and all the great people that support us. But before that round, I'm up there putting my fire suit on, watching golf, because, you know, Alan's a big golf guy, and Tiger 3 putts. And I'm like, oh, my God. I don't want to tell Alan, man. This will blow his deal. Is that how funny? That's how funny that is. Exactly the truth, too. I walked out. So, Alan, by the way, Tiger 3 putted, man. He's at 8 under right now. Sorry, but at least we won the race. Good day for us, man. Awesome day. Yeah!
Well, with that win, it's Tony Schumacher now moving 52 points ahead of Larry Dixon and 122 ahead of Brandon Bernstein in top fuel points. John Kernan has Gary Densham.
Down at the far end, and Gary, only 40 pounds of oil pressure, normally 120, but you still made a heck of a race out of it.
Yeah, well, it was a good race. I never saw Tony till I lifted, and, you know, I could have won either way, and, you know, they're a great team over there, and, you know, for our team, with our finances, to make it to the finals with this, you know, this field of nitro funny cars this year, I'm very proud of my guys. They've done an absolutely superb job, and, yeah, give us a big lift, give us a couple dollars, maybe we can go to Houston and keep this thing rolling.
We hope to see you there, Paul.
Yeah, what a tough road that is, but he continues to do it and do it well. Funny car, point standings. Robert Height, number 1. Jack Beckman just 6 back, followed by Cruz. And Gary Densham did some good for himself today. Then Jim Head just 66 points back.
Well, that funny car battle is tight. Only 104 out for Scott Collette in that number 10 position.
Let's go to Gary Gerald. He has Brandon Bernstein.
And a heck of a drag race, Paul, between Brandon Bernstein and Tony Schumacher. When you don't get the Wally, how tough to handle that disappointment, Brandon?
It was pretty tough. You know, our Budweiser Lucas Oil team ran great today, but, you know, just to come up to the final round and then, you know, come up that short. And it's unfortunate because, you know, I really wanted this one, you know, because my buddy up there is still looking down at me. And I just wanted it really bad for him. But we'll try another one.
He's talking, of course, about Eric Medlin, his close friend who lost his life a year ago this weekend at this racetrack.
Tough day for many people just with that memory there. But, boy, this is one of the big events, isn't it, Mike?
That's right, the 39th edition of the ACDelco Gatornationals. Didn't let anybody down. We saw some great races and some great champions crowned today. It's a day they will never forget.
And a giant crowd had a perfect day. Started with that rain on Friday, totally wiping out that session. But then once they got going, it was terrific. Our next NHRA qualifying will come up on March 29th at 4:30 and again at 10 p.m. Up next, the MasterCard NIT Selection Show. We'll see you in Texas.